For the record, this is the RM of Springfield meeting agenda, December the 17th of 2024. Council meeting, council meeting is starting at exactly 6:01. Just a little bit of in-house keeping, if hats off there, please. And put your cell phones on vibrate, please, or off there, so it's not disrupting. If you get a call, then obviously just take it out outdoors, please. I want to call the meeting to order, and I will do invocation there, and or I will do the invocation. Is that Glenn? Land acknowledgement. I just introduced myself. That's somebody's cell phone there. I'm Mayor Patrick Therrien there for Mayor for the RM of Springfield, and I'll introduce our staff at the controls, our assistant CAO Christy Groenheid. To my left is our CAO Colleen Draper. To my right in descending order is a Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ward 1 Glenn Fuel. Next will be Councillor Ward 2 Andy Kaczynski. Next is Councillor Ward 3 Mark Miller. And last is Councillor Ward 4 is Melinda Warren. I'll do what we refer to as the invocation there. I'm hoping everybody can hear me. So please say if you can't. Everybody hear me pretty well? Just we tested it beforehand there. Okay. So karaoke style. I'll do the karaoke here. Invocation is times are tough, and no matter what, we have one of the strongest and most resilient, the oldest and one of the largest RMs in the province, and the best country in the world. This country has had to battle, or this council has had to battle, and we will continue to do so. Democracy must be followed, no matter how some try to change the definition. I continue to have people come up to me and say that they pray for me, and of course I thank them for the offer there. But I said they must pray for all of council, not just for myself, but for all of us there, our CEO and entire staff. We have an exceptional staff. So that said, I just want to make sure that we have a respectful and well-mannered meeting. No need to cause any loud talk. It's going to be in a bit of a tight chambers here tonight. People in the audience as well there. So with that said, I hope the meeting will go well, and we'll ask at this point here, I'll go to item 3, and that'll be our land acknowledgement.
Land acknowledgement. The RM of Springfield acknowledges that we are gathered on ancestral lands, Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Nishnawbe, Cree, Oji, Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the national homeland of the Red River Métis.
Thank you very much. We'll go to item 4, and that's approval of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Melinda and Andy? Did you have your hand up, Andy, for that? Okay. Any questions? You had your hand up already, Mark. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 additions to the agenda, please. One would be for an unscheduled delegation that is permitted under Section 11 of the Procedures Bylaw, and that's for a Dr. Daniel Page, who's going to be speaking to us about the Procedures Bylaw. And the other amendment I'd like to introduce is that under Section 9, Bylaw 2410, that the Procedures Bylaw second reading occur, but that we defer the third reading of the Procedures Bylaw to another meeting. So in other words, separate the second and third reading. We can have second reading tonight, but we want third reading at a separate meeting going forward.
What does council think with regards to the unscheduled delegation? I'll start it off there. We often get these unscheduled delegations there. I should say we don't get them too often, but lately we've had them there, and you know, they've been introduced by yourself, Councillor Miller, and I don't think this rises to the occasion that it's an emergency, a time-sensitive issue. Mr. Page has had many. We've had contacts with regards to the minutes and so on like that, and that hasn't changed at all. I'm still talking. So the fact that you want an unscheduled delegation, I don't think that rises to you know, the criteria required for that. It's not an emergency there. It's not time sensitive. And go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you don't see this as time sensitive, when is it time sensitive? It's on the agenda this evening. It may be the last opportunity that citizens have to speak to this issue on the procedures bylaw. It meets all of the criteria that we've ever had in terms of a procedure for a council meeting. So if you throw him off the bus, you take his issue away, he'll never have a chance going forward to talk about the procedures bylaw. So I think you're making accusations to me once again right off the start that I've made these enormous amount of unscheduled delegations. Can you name one? Can you name one?
Janet Nyland. You did the same thing with Janet Nyland. You wanted an unscheduled delegation with her, I think twice.
It was pertinent to the agenda. What would be wrong with that?
Well, that's neither here nor there. You asked me and I told you that that's what you did.
And
so this one here, the unscheduled delegation there, this doesn't rise, in my opinion, to that. Mr. Page has talked often with regards to the issue there, and we've already heard several times with regards to that. So I don't think that rises. That's just my opinion. I'll throw it out to the rest of council before we vote. Andy?
Thank you. I suggested that we allow Mr. Page to speak for the reason that he didn't want to take the time for question period that other people might use, because his delegation is quite lengthy, his presentation, and he would like to ask us for that time that we allow him to speak to the council and the residents of this municipality. Thank you.
Melinda?
So Mr. Page came to the October meeting, right? October? October. A couple months ago. And Mr. Page talked, because the whole meeting was about the procedural bylaw, and majority of you were there, I do believe. Mr. Page had a few issues, and because there was no Zoom, so none of you could Zoom in. Mr. Page talked about our communications, freedom of expression, good governance. He talked about in our procedural bylaw that we should not have harassment free. That he talked about section 16 about banning or having a safe, secure environment instead of the word harassment. Mr. Page talked about our documents and our minutes and how our minutes were very vague. Right, Mr. Page? He talked about 15.9, 15.10, the audio and visual, how he suggested that we should have a hot microphone. And then he came up again and he talked again about the function of notification. And then in 7, he talked about the important policy notifications concerning with the Planning Act. Did you not? You did? So I got it all? Well, I got majority, and then we received several emails, so I don't have those here. But thank you very much for all your information. I'm not sure what more you could add compared to what I have when everyone came and spoke that night. But that's where I'm sitting. I have documentation of who was there, who spoke, and an overall idea of what they talked about and the sections that I should look at for the procedural bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. We haven't heard from Deputy Mayor Fuel, if you want to comment. Otherwise, we can vote.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what Councillor Warren said. But having said that, I don't have a problem with the delegation for unscheduled. But I will say this is that we are going through the procedural bylaw, and based on that, they may be changes. So make sure whatever changes are made that we follow the rules, because this is what it's about, following the rules and having collaboration with everybody. So thank you.
Okay, then if we put it to a vote to allow Mr. Page for an emergency delegation before council, those that agree to that, to allowing him, show of hands. 4, and those are opposed. Myself, so it is carried. Where are we going to fit him in, Mr. Page, for that? After the 6:30 delegation?
Following the 6:30, correct.
Then we'll.
So I think there was 2 items to vote on. So I'll maybe just read out the agenda resolution for council to vote on in its entirety. Be it resolved that the agenda be amended as follows. Add number 1, unscheduled delegation, Daniel Page, procedure bylaw, and number 2, bylaw 2410, third reading deferred.
May I show of hands, those in support? And then so carried. And the second one was 2410, separating them and only reading the.
That was part of the
Oh, okay.
the whole resolution that I just read.
Okay. Then how is that? Are we voting for that?
So
No.
I can reread the agenda. Be it resolved. So there was 2 requested amendments to the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda be amended as follows. Add number 1, unscheduled delegation, Daniel Page, procedure bylaw, and number 2, bylaw 2410, third reading deferred. So you're voting on the whole resolution.
Okay, then we are doing the second and third reading tonight.
Well, the
Second.
request to.
Hey, just, I'm talking to council.
So we weren't voting separately on the unscheduled delegation and the third reading deferral. So that's all part of the agenda amendments.
Okay, so pardon me here, like I don't see a reason why we're not voting on the third reading 9.11.
Point of order. The resolution was put forward. It was voted on. It's set. I don't think we can revisit it. So if you don't understand it, she was very clear on what the resolution was. We voted very clearly. And I don't know why you can't just, Robert's Rules of Order, you can't just entertain it one more time,
nobody's
Mr.
saying
Mayor.
I'm not trying to shortcut anything here at all. There's no, council has agreed, then we're going to do the third reading at another point, at another time. I don't see, I know we voted on it there. I don't know why we keep on delaying things through and through here. I'm not discussing, I'm commenting. Yes, I can. Sure, I can. We've already voted. We've already voted on it. We've already voted on it. So I'm just at a loss why we keep on delaying things.
So yeah, it's just maybe I was unclear that you were voting on both of those changes. So council can reconsider a vote at the same meeting if you all agree to reconsider it. So that's my only comment.
I'd like to try to do another vote to try to get our second and third reading in together. Was council fully aware that I'm asking everybody, were you aware that we were going to separate the third reading, the second and third reading? We were doing the second tonight and then the third at another time. Glenn?
Yeah, so I wasn't clear on that. You're right. I was clear with the Daniel Page piece. I didn't realize we're
Hey,
doing
quiet,
the both
quiet.
the same as one resolution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was voting on
Well-
the Daniel Page, and then we were going to do the second. We were going to do the second point there of
Wow.
the 2410. So
It is gone.
there's a complete mix up there. I think we have to do, in my opinion, doing the second and third reading. We shouldn't have had it read together. Because we hadn't yet we did the one for Daniel Page, but we hadn't that should have been handled separately.
Mr. Mayor,
So
No.
yeah, go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're trying to guide and steer in a direction when a motion was already put forward and voted on. I think that's not only contrary to public procedure, but I think you're influencing other members of council that heard that same resolution that the CEO read out to us. So if they can't understand that resolution, then there's serious problems in this council.
Well, there was a miscommunication. It's evident there. People, just let me talk, please. There, so it shouldn't have been read together. And I'm not being critical here, but well, I am. We should have been voting on both at the same time. We did Mr. Page. Stop.
Excuse me,
Yes.
please don't interrupt.
I'm talking here. So the fact is that the second shouldn't have been read together. I'd like to have another vote on the bylaw and figure out how we can
I don't think
we
can.
can
I don't think
you
we
know
can.
vote on 9 on item number 9.
No,
I think we should refer to Robert's Rules of Order,
no, it's not.
and that is exactly what, as Mr. Mackey has said, only those who voted negative can re-entertain that. If you don't read Robert, do you know what Robert's Rules of Order?
Enough. You're not
No,
you're not going to
no,
catch
don't
me on
don't
anything
deflect.
here.
Don't
That's
deflect.
enough.
Don't deflect. You know the
That's-
rules or you don't know the rules. You know, you started off the agenda, you didn't know where we were. So I'm going to ask you, do you know the rules or not? Or
No.
are you making the rules up as we go to
There's
make them?
nothing. I'm trying.
I'm speaking now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. You gave me the floor, and I have 5 minutes. I won't take all 5 minutes, but I will tell you this: if you're going to steer this every single time, you wonder why I get dramatic and frustrated and upset. You wonder because you don't follow rules. Every other organization I'm in follows the rules. This council does not. Why are we seen in the paper and throughout the municipalities in Manitoba as some sort of a renegade, bizarre council? Just look at the audio. Look at the video. Because you're not following the rules.
Finished? Are you finished? Okay. No, there's a miscommunication here, and how we can do this by procedure, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to defer this to our CEO to how, in my opinion, we should be voting on 2 and 3. Well, and I'm going to ask our CEO where do we stand position-wise if we bring it to.
Well, as I mentioned, of the Municipal Act, Section 139(1), a council may not consider or reverse the decision within 1 year after it is made unless A, at the same meeting at which the decision is made, all the members who voted are present, or B, a member gives written notice from one regular meeting to the next. So in this case, you're all present. Council may reconsider or reverse the decision.
Then that's what I'd like to try to do. I'd like to get some clarification, handle this on a vote separate there, because we're all here, or we could do it at another meeting there, but I think the whole idea is to try to get the second and third at the same time. I'm still talking there. So I think our option is we're all present here, so we can vote. Does that have to be unanimous as well?
I would just suggest you put forward a motion asking council to reconsider the vote on the agenda this evening.
Mark?
I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you follow Parliament and the legislature as much as I do. So you would know why second and reading is pushed through in one meeting. It's to ensure that the public and the public interest isn't best represented. It's to ensure, to fast track, to push through legislation. And so if that's what our aim is to do, is to alienate, to muzzle, to quiet, to silence the public, you've got 2 stars, 2 A+. But I don't want any part of that. I think we should defer to a separate meeting where the people can again have an opportunity to reflect with us, share concerns with us, and for you to get a handle, I'll gift you for Christmas a Robert's Rules of Orders book.
You know, you're just being a comical fool right now. You're acting like a drama queen. This is simply something. Go ahead.
If that is decorum in this council, he's called Madam CEO. He has called me names enough times. My wife has seen me so stressed, it's made me sick to my stomach because this mayor continues to lambaste, to make comments.
Did you not
to
just
bully?
do one? Did you not just do a comment before that?
Did I call you a name?
You know, Mark.
No, I didn't, Mr.
Enough.
Mayor. Because
You know,
you're your RCMP
act
bully
like an adult.
tactic.
Act like an adult, okay? Now we'll do. There you go. You know, you're going to wreck property there. You do it all the time. You throw things down. You get up out of your seat, then you walk out. Why don't you just sit down there and let me talk? Then they're not made up rules. We're allowed to do that. They are not. So I think enough. It's just this is just common sense and logic there.
We follow the Municipal
we-
Act before Robert's Rules, just to clarify. Yes, Robert's Rules is in the bylaw,
a
but we
guideline.
follow the Municipal
It
Act.
is. It's just common sense and logic. If you act like adults, then we'll have that. You're the same way, Mark. Just before that, my response is in response to what you said. So don't start acting innocent here now. So I think we want to vote on this, and then it's my resolution
Shame.
putting forward that we vote separately on the matter there you want to discuss by separating the second and third reading. It was done in error, and then we'll have a proper vote on that. So no, it was. It was.
Because you didn't understand it, it's done in error.
It's not
every
me.
time, every vote
The
you're going to do, it's because
deputy
it's
mayor
error.
is the same way. This should have been done separately. There was 2 resolutions. You should have let us know this in the beginning there as
Wasn't
well.
it the CEO that did it?
So, that did what?
I didn't think the. I suggested.
Well, yes, no, I am critical there, but in a respectful manner. You know that the CEO shouldn't have done that. So this is no. I'm still talking here. So I think we should put it make a resolution with regards to having the second part of your additions to the agenda that shouldn't have been read together, and that's the one where we're going to separate the second and third reading. So if we can get the resolution.
Well, there seems to be confusion, obviously, on what was being voted on the agenda. I've given my advice that if you want to reconsider or reverse the decision, I need a mover and seconder to put that forward and council can vote on it. If that resolution does not pass, then we proceed with the agenda as approved.
Yeah, then I'll be the mover with regards to that. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor. And if we can get please quiet, then we'll get the resolution read and then we'll have a proper vote there and then we'll allow that to go.
Be it resolved that council reconsider the vote on the approval of the agenda for December 17th, 2024.
Can I get a show of hands with regards to reviewing the agenda as read, the resolution as read? Those in support is Melinda, Glenn, and Patrick there. Those opposed? Mark and Andy? Now, do we do it separately with Daniel Page again? And then the second one there with the second and third reading?
Okay, so to clarify, you want a resolution on each item being proposed on the agenda.
I think Daniel Page's there. We had a 4-to-1 vote there, and that's what I was voting for or voting against, and it was majority rule. There was more. We already did that. There's a majority of on that one there. So I think the second one will be the separate one with regards to Councillor Miller's section 9, I believe it was, and 9.1 there with regards to reading the second, voting on the second reading tonight, and then deferring it for the third reading at another date. I want to do all together as what we have on the agenda. Is that clear as mud?
Okay, so I have a resolution, be it resolved that council approve a non-scheduled delegation for Daniel Page for the procedure bylaw. And you want that voted on separately?
Yes.
If you're moving that,
Yes.
and a seconder. I just need a vote.
With regards to Mr. Page's emergency delegation there, can I get a show of hands of those in support? That'll be Melinda, Mark, Andy, and Glenn. Those opposed? That'll be myself, and it's so passed. The second resolution will be the one concerning the procedural bylaw 9.1, where they're to be read together. We're doing them tonight.
Councillor Miller, do you want to move that resolution?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll make the motion that we defer third reading of bylaw 2410, the procedures bylaw, to a future council meeting.
Seconder?
Be it resolved that council defer third reading on bylaw 2410 to a future council meeting.
Those in support of the resolution as read? Mark and Andy. Those opposed? Those opposed? Melinda, Glenn, and Patrick. And then is defeated there. Okay. Then could I get a show of hands? So we've already done the approval there. The right.
So just one more resolution, just accepting the agenda with those amendments.
I got a show of hands accepting the agendas with the amendments there. Melinda, Glenn, Patrick. Those opposed? Mark and Andy. So passed. Okay. If we can go to item 5, that's adoption of the minutes. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Patrick and Melinda.
Whereas the minutes of the council meeting held November 19th have been previously distributed to council, be it resolved that the same be and are hereby approved.
Can I get a mover and a show of hands of those in support? Melinda, Glenn, and Patrick. Those opposed? Mark and Andy. So passed. If we can go to item 6.1, elected officials reports. A mover and a seconder, please. Patrick and Glenn.
Be it resolved that council activity reports for the month of November be received as information.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just was referring to your monthly activity report. You indicated on November 13th, you went to a Winnipeg Metropolitan Region in-person information session. Is there any information that you could share with the public? Because as I understand, most of this community is not really supportive to Plan 2050, nor the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region. But for you to say that you went in-person information session hardly gives myself as councillor and representative for Ward 3 any information on what I can relate to my constituents and or to the general public in general. So any information as the paid representative on the WMR using two hats, what did you learn and share, and what benefit does the WMR have for us going forward in Plan 2050? That's one question. I have others too, Mr. Mayor.
It was essentially updating us on status with regards to the province. The ministers, the new minister is still meeting with our executive, which is Michael Moore there, and the executive assistant there with regards to seeing how it's going to proceed proceeding going forward. So there wasn't much with regards to the meeting, just updating us with regards to the new amendment that might be coming out, Bill 4. And I think we had discussed this in council there. I discussed Bill 4 there, and at that time there it has changed from Bill 42 to Bill 4 because of the new session in legislative buildings. Go ahead.
Thank you for that. And when is the first opportunity that our municipality can opt out of that plan?
Have you read the Bill 4?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well then you know that's the first option is once royal assent is done, then we can look at it at that time there.
So I guess what I was asking is, do you know when that royal assent might be? Was there any expectation of when that
No.
might be?
I think we're talking fall, late fall.
25?
Yeah, projection. Nobody knows.
Okay. So I guess that answers that. On November 20th, you attended John Q board meeting. Most of us here know that you are on the board of John Q, which is a quasi non-governmental organization. But at the same time, is there any information you can share with the public and council regarding your deliberations with John Q?
Yes, there's a very a very large investment that we're looking at since you and Councillor Krasinski refused to sign the non-disclosure agreement. I can't discuss it with yourselves, but I have discussed it with the rest of the council there, so they're aware of it there. There was discussion with regards to John Q daycare. I expressed our interest in our land that we had bought, 39 acres of land there that might be a good location for daycare for our community there. No promises. I don't want anybody to say that I've got an agenda. I don't. This is something daycare that might come forward. This is all speculation until everything is forwarded there. But until our water treatment plant is up and running there, that was just one of the comments there. I thought that might be good with regards to having land use division there of the 39 acres. I also expressed an interest there with regards to our land rehab, lagoon rehab project there, and some participation with other stakeholders. I'm hoping that Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, we're still talking with regards to them for that. A water treatment plan that was discussed there, and part of the John Q is the investments in our communities there. So updating all the RMs there that are involved in this, so everybody knows at the table, much like WMR. It's always good to know what everybody else is doing, and being at the table to understand how the other RMs work and are functioning together is far better one-on-one as opposed to a phone call or an email and so on. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the final issue is November 27th, you had a multi-stakeholder Chamber of Commerce meet and greet with Schuler and a few others. Plus, it says in your report, which is posted on the website, I don't quite understand it. It says, comma, plus consider it for PC party leadership. What
Yes.
does that have to do with anything that this RM or your role as mayor has at this present time? In other words, what does that really mean? Plus consider it for PC party leadership?
He is. He's running for the PC party leadership.
Who is?
Wally is his name. Dirk. I actually, I'm sorry. I forget the last name. I talked to him briefly there. I talked with the Minister of Mines and so on talked to many people that were there, very large stakeholders there. The minister was just appointed, the Minister of Mines, shortly before that there. So it was all just a meet and greet there at a very well-run Chamber of Commerce meeting, where a regional aspect is we're trying to get together. Not we, that's a Chamber of Commerce. Instead of just having us in a bubble, having everybody together in a large regional component there. So that was the main pretext with regards to that meeting of the Chamber of Commerce. And there was, so it was just discussions and talk and, the reeve of RM of Reynolds. Sorry, I had a blank there for a second there, and a lot of discussions and talks and trying to get dialogue with all the stakeholders there, handing out business cards and so on like that. The Minister of Mines did an exceptional presentation there as well. Although he was new at the job, he did a very good job at informing everybody present.
Thank you for that. I'm not sure why the Chamber of Commerce would have their PC party leadership candidates there, but I guess that's what they do.
It was an open invite, I guess. There was a lot of people there. But it wasn't out of place. He was just there shaking hands. Andy?
Thank you. I would like to ask you, we met with the Minister of Municipal Relations, and one of the issue you raised with the minister, it was the code of conducts and how RM are bearing costs when should be supported by province, and cost investigation and decision by council put undue conflict. Suggestion of Manitoba Relations Investigate Office and Ombudsman saving RM. Can you please elaborate to our residents what this is all about, please?
Sure. Always looking to try to save money here. I can't talk about the code of conduct there, and I think your questioning is, although I don't mind answering questions, I think it's pointed, and you're trying to make me say something that I shouldn't, and I'm all for answering the question there, but you know full well I can't talk about a code of conduct there. The fact, what I was looking at, and it's an innovative thought, is that we, on a code of conduct there, so everybody who's listening and is in the audience there, we are subject to codes of how we conduct ourselves there. And we, like anybody else, can be subject to codes deficiencies, and that's up to a board to investigate it. There has got to go through several procedures there if it meets the criteria going forward there. And in this case here, it's costing a lot of money. My idea to the minister, and I'm not sure if I really should be talking about this, because this is a discussion with council and the minister there. It wasn't something that's so at this point here, you were there, Andy, so I'm not sure why you're really asking that. This is between the council and the minister. I haven't really got approval from the minister for my idea. It's an innovative idea, and I think it's a great cost-saving idea, but I haven't really got permission from the minister to really answer that. So if you had any questions,
Mr. Mayor, you raised
outside
that issue and you put in your report. So public have to know what you're thinking, what you want to do with it.
And
nobody forced you to put this thing. You do it yourself, and then now you try to weasel yourself out from the answering to the public.
I take exception to the word weasel, Andy.
Well,
I take exception to that.
Well, we heard the stories that you want to tell. Why don't you tell everything? Because everything what you want to say to minister,
okay,
you cannot talk about it.
All right, I'll say it there, and I don't think I'm going to be totally. The minister is going to slap somebody's hands. It's going to be me. My idea to the minister is, why are we having paid investigators to do this at an exorbitant cost, when we could open up, and this is a suggestion to the minister, an ombudsman's office within the municipal relations office, an arm's distance that only reports to the minister there, and you know, 2 or 3 retired personnel or whoever, they do the investigations here in Manitoba. It's done in real time, and it's done in a really expeditious manner. I think that's a cost savings for the entire province. So that was my issue there.
So you spoke with the minister about that issue, and you want to create something in this municipality. You want somebody else to pay for it?
Say again?
You want somebody else to pay for it? You want to create something in this municipality, and then you want somebody else to pay for it? Because that's what you're saying to us and to the public, that municipality shouldn't absorb the cost. It's cost that provision is for it, that if something happening in this municipality, we have code of conduct, the municipal act saying that you do it and you bury the cost. So why are you going to minister and say, well, we want to do something, but we don't want to pay for it? It's not responsibility of the province to pay for the issue that might be arising in this municipality.
This wasn't just our municipality discussion. This is in the entire province, where we could have potentially 137 different investigations. That's how many RMs there is in the province there, and the cost is huge. If we have an in-house investigative team, they're paid on an hourly wage. These people are paid per complaints, so the savings would be huge. So if that's, I don't know how much clearer I can say.
So,
This is
Mr.
a
Mayor,
cost
so now you're
savings.
telling us that you're working on behalf of the all municipalities, 137 of them in this province of Manitoba?
I don't know, Andy. I don't know how much clearer I could say. This is an investigative unit that's independent. It has to be independent. They look at the complaints. They do it like an investigation. They'll do the statements as opposed to getting a cost. It's divided through the RMs at an exorbitant lesser fee. Yeah, it's a small unit of. I said to him there at the time that it's a you know, retired policemen or police personnel that can do the investigation and do it in a timely fashion, as opposed to you know, one investigation per RM, and the RM pays for all this. This is all done through the through the Minister of Relations there. So that it's a cost savings to everybody, not just to this RM, but to the entire province.
But we have so many very important issues happening in this municipality, like water treatment plant and our sewage treatment plant, or a lagoon expansion. And those issues you didn't raise, but you raised a code of conduct. That was the most important thing for you. Obviously, then.
That's not true, Andy.
Okay, I
What do you
think
mean
the
not true?
question's been asked and answered, and we should move on to the next
Yeah,
item.
I don't know. You were there, and it seems like you
Yeah, I was there,
sound
and
like
I
you
didn't
were.
really appreciate what was happening there. That's why I'm questioning you now.
Well, I don't quite understand, Andy. Okay.
Okay, you don't have to understand. Maybe public gonna understand, yeah, because
Okay.
you know you're answering to the public. Thank you.
Is there other questions on the elected officials reports?
All right. If I get is the resolution to be read on it, or just a vote?
Resolution's read, just need a vote.
Can I just get a vote to those support of elected officials reports? That is unanimous and is carried. If we can get to 6.2, that's departmental reports. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Mark and Glenn.
Be it resolved that November department operating reports be accepted as information.
Any questions at all from council with regards to departmental reports? I see none. Can I get a show of hands, those in support? That is unanimous and is carried. I guess let's just get it out of the way. What do you think? Then we'll go to the second delegation there. Mr. Page there. 15 minutes, sir.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Dr. Daniel Page. I'm your local computer science professor on Pine Ridge Road. I'm here to further discuss the procedure bylaw, given the best information I have as a professional researcher academic, based on the information that is presently available to the public, and also provide new information for council, because I believe we might be in the cusp of a piece of history of this RM, and I feel like I'm and somewhat I feel very concerned and somewhat privileged to be here to have to talk about this, given my concerns about freedom of expression in public universities. And this is just another institution for which there are concerns residents have, and I would like to talk about that now. There's two main components that are actually, technically it's three, that I would like to discuss in this delegation. The first one is actually a sequence of rebuttals, because as somebody is formally trained in the mathematical sciences, I normally have to preempt arguments because I'm a rigorous thinker. I've instilled that in the spirit of the previous delegation. I've been educated students for a number of years, all ages, on trying to build a rich mathematical mindset to understand the world. So the first one is, of course, the sequence of rebuttals. This is important information because I'm working with the best information I have. There's certain information that I'm not privy to that council has, and I've made attempts to try to get that information through FIPA and also, of course, by asking through the ENOLA meeting. But either of those have failed, and the advice I've been given is that that information cannot be given to me, and I will not be asked, demanding or anything from council. It's that this is something that is privileged information that only council can decide if that were to be released. Now, the second one, of course, after that, I'll be discussing it will be specifically about not only the rebuttals, but talking about technical aspects of the procedure bylaw. So I'm going to now proceed. The first thing I need to start with is, of course, a reminder of what freedom of expression exactly is. Now, to quote the Government of Canada's website, actually their Charterpedia, it's very accessible to the public. The protection of freedom of expression is premised upon fundamental principles and values that promote the search for an attainment of truth, participation in social and political decision-making, and the opportunity for individual self-fulfillment through expression. Now, there's various standards for which different governments look at freedom of expression. Now, I don't know what the RM standard exactly is, because keep in mind, freedom of expression is a charter right. It's under Section 2B, and all levels of government must recognize it. So just as a quick example, according to, again, Charterpedia, the Supreme Court standard, for example, they actually use a three-part test. The first one is, does the activity in question have expressive content, thereby bringing it into Section 2B protections? 2, does the method or location of this expression remove that protection? And 3, if the expression is protected by Section 2B, does the government action in question infringe that protection either in purpose or effect? Now, I would recommend that the RM establish a standard for which it wants to recognize freedom of expression, because we're facing a situation where residents want to be heard. Now, I want to now talk about these sequences of rebuttals. Think of these as pieces of information that are relevant to the Charter Advocates letter that was put forward to the council. And again, as I said, I do not have all the information that council does, and nor am I privy to it. So I'm working with what I have publicly available and what I could have done as a researcher. So the first one, and this is a very important standard to be met, and I talked about standards, is the mayor himself has said he will uphold the charter. So at September 3rd, 2024, if you go to the audio recording, it's 6 minutes, 14 seconds. To quote the mayor, he says, "We're never going to breach the charter rights. Absolutely not." And to go a little further into that passage, "So we're never going to breach the charter rights at any time, nor can we." Now, further this, that was the same meeting of the first reading of the procedure bylaw. So just as a reminder, just for some history, I was a part of that meeting. I was there. I used question period to bring these concerns forward. It was question period that was used because there was not enough time for me to have known about that information. Now, it was that was voted in, just to be clear, because there was a condition, a part of the discussion, that they would speak to me, which they did. Most certainly, council did. But it must be stressed that that I only spoke with the mayor that night, just to be very clear, and for which he told me he'll uphold the charter. So, in case that needs to be reiterated, it's never been corrected at any one point to me in any of my delegations or questions. So there's a matter of consistency behind that. So just remember, if a group of constitutional lawyers are saying, "Hey, look, we're trying to help the RM of Springfield," doesn't matter, like the Charter Advocates group, they're saying there's problems with our procedure bylaw. These are experienced constitutional lawyers. Some of these people have been doing this for like 10 years, at least. And so it must be stressed that the advice they're giving you is trying to help. And the spirit of what we've heard today, it's about helping and cooperation. I would like to see that be something that council does consider. Is like, for example, why not try to invite charter advocates to give a delegation at one of our meetings before going ahead with this? That might be something really important to do. Now, the second rebuttal that you may consider is the fact that many residents came to the October 21st meeting. And if you look carefully at the document that's before council, I've looked carefully at it. There's two changes specifically that are in there. I'm not privy to any information that council has that it may discuss later this meeting, just for clarity purposes. But there's only two. There's only two. One of them is something I brought up prior to that meeting. The other one is there's an addition about, I believe it's about extension of votes and keeping records of that. Now, there was a lot of input, and there's tons of input that came in from that meeting. Many residents came because they were concerned about, say, for example, the loss of question period, but also many other concerns, like about a release of agenda items. It would be proactive for council to discuss those points because residents brought them to you. So I'm suggesting that before you go ahead, maybe you should bring that input in. That's another rebuttal. And of course, probably the most important, at least for this delegation, is the fact that not all of the recommendations of the Charter Advocates letter were incorporated into the current version that's on the website right now. So that is another one. You should look carefully at that, given that there are arguments in that letter. I personally think that many of them are easy to understand, but the case law around it most certainly, I wouldn't say it's very easy either. But the understanding components, I think that it's pretty clear that they're concerned about the RM and they want to try to see that this bylaw be improved. Now, probably one of the most important legal types of arguments that may have been put to council, I don't know, is of course history of the procedure bylaw, mainly longevity. The idea that if words have been in the procedure bylaw for a long period of time, it means it must have been reliable as policy. Now, naturally, there's problems with that line of reasoning. There is a word of wisdom in long-term use of a policy. It may have lasted for a long period of time for a reason, but if it's sat there for a long time, most certainly if it's never been challenged before, that might mean that there's legitimately a problem with the bylaw. So this appeal to like, especially in this case, that appeal might have flaws. It's no different than if somebody puts something outside and they said, oh, well, it's just out there this whole time and somebody trips over it. Well, what are you supposed to do in a situation like that? You just asserted it, but it was never really, I'm not aware of what history has existed for challenging the wording in question around the Charter Advocates letter. Now, it's worth noting that the claim for which the wording has been standing for a long time is actually false. For example, I've looked actually at the two previous bylaws, namely, keep in mind the current procedure bylaw is 2222. The one that preceded it just before that was 1708. And so that was approved in January 2019. Now, of course, that one introduced the public decorum section, so literally it's not the same, but I must stress that there's been changes to the nature of those two components that Charter Advocates was discussing. So technically, so let me just elaborate. So for example, there's underneath what would be in that time, well, I guess in 2222, it's under, I guess 17D. If you look back at 15.9 in 1708, the language is actually expanded considerably. Before it used to be signs or placards. Now it's signs, placards, posters, etc., without clarity of what etc. means. So there's no limiting definition on that. It means of the sort or of the rest, right? And this other notion of any advertising devices, which I don't know exactly which definition council would like to use for that. But probably the other one is actually 17C in 2222, which is 16C. Do note that in 1708, this language has actually morphed, okay? So it's worth noting that it's actually also in 15.9 of 1708. It talks about persons in the council chambers are not permitted to, let's see here, I'm just trying to make sure I got this right. It's not permitted to applaud participants in debate. That's what 1708 had. That's the previous procedure bylaw, not the current one. The current one, which has the same language as the proposed one, actually expands this and actually contracts the language in itself, is that it says that behave in a disorderly manner, including engaging in debate. So the idea of debate itself, not just applauding debate. It is debate itself. So I need to stress that that's a severe language change. So there's other changes as well, but those are the two primary ones I can point to show that this is actually false information. But I must stress that we are limiting what can be expressed in this chamber with the proposed bylaw because the current one has these same problems too. Now, may I ask how much time I have left? Okay, I'm going to try to use the rest of my time to go through the last component. So there's very important pieces here. Mainly, I'm going to look at 16D. So now I'm moving on to discussing the Charter Advocates letter and also the procedure bylaw more technically. So as with the current procedure bylaw 2222, as it was explained by Charter Advocates, 16D, this is their words, just to be very clear, is overbroad and an unjustified restriction on freedom of expression. So that's how they characterize our 16D. So they furthermore said that explicitly they say that it's very difficult to justify constitutionally as it bans all expressive media, which is a type of expressive content, which actually has a long history of being protected in this country at the federal level. So no matter, and must be stressed, no matter what or how that message is provided, the how, like you just straight up banning it. It's not even judging the character of it. It's everything. That's a big problem. Next, there's of course 16C. Likewise, Charter Advocates actually explained that this would actually allow there to be new mechanisms or tools for stifling free speech of residents and or to censor expressive content by residents. That was their words. Remember, these are constitutional lawyers. They're warning you that there's flaws with this bylaw. So next, I must stress again, the language has expanded in this since the previous procedure bylaw, since the introduction of the public decorum section. Next, of course, I must stress, actually, I want to know some, so this is something I haven't really been able to figure out. I'm not sure if council can link this for me. But between 2222 and the approval of the first reading of the procedure bylaw, Resolution 2345 was carried on February 7, 2023. This resolution states a behavior of what a resident may not do in the chamber. And it's not clear to me exactly what the process precisely of the bylaw, meaning the current one and the proposed, for as per the public decorum section of how that fits into this whole process, because the procedure bylaw lays out the process for which that's supposed to happen. Finally, I'm just looking at my time here. I want to be very careful. So
30 seconds there,
Yes.
sir.
So I want to talk a little bit about. I want to talk a lot about. There's a lot of things here. Like I want to just emphasize. I've been spending day and night the last few days, minimum, trying to do this to help the residents, because they need to have the chamber to participate in. So I must stress. So just again, I'm getting a little emotional. Sorry. I know I gotta go for a twofer. So again, I am imploring council, please slow down. You can make a very dire mistake for which when we can actually make this procedural bylaw a better one. And this is a chamber, historically, it's the public function of a council meeting is to have the public there. As a historical function of the council meetings. So as one of the longest running, if not longest, running RM in the province, I'm imploring council to please slow down and try to get it right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council at all? Mark?
First off, thank you, Dr. Page. You have more experience and education than anyone that sits on this table here. There's no question about that, especially in this area of expertise. That was a simple reason too why I'm asking for council to defer third reading, because if we ram it through here, there's no question, as you said very quick, like I can quote you saying, it's a dire mistake to proceed as we are, as it's presented to us here and tonight. So if those who vote for it want to go down dire consequences and make those kinds of mistakes, I guess it's up to them. But I have some questions, some observations too. The document is clearly inadequate in terms of charter advocates. So that should be enough for us to say, let's take a sober second look. In my opinion, you provide us very thorough suggestions going forward, and I thank you for those. We're going down a slippery slope. You know, internationally, we've seen the erosion of public participation in the democratic process. I've been in China a few times. Do you know in China they elect representatives? But once you elect those representatives don't reach out to the public anymore. It's called communism. That's what it is. Because they restrict and paralyze the public. And I'm scared that's exactly what we're doing here. We see the absolute erosion of the public interest. You know, COVID was a social experiment. How much the government could get away with? We've all been through that. It wasn't pleasant, whether you're on one side or the other, it wasn't pleasant for anyone. I can't imagine anyone that succeeded in that social experiment. I would say to you, and you clearly said it, we should take a sober second look, defer, do this right, make the public engaged, respect their point of view, encourage their participation, not restricted like we've seen in so many jurisdictions across North America and Asia, in the Middle East. You know, you have those uprisings because those tyrants, those governments are saying, you will listen to us. We have your best interest. We're doing it in your best interest. They use those terms and buzzwords. Oh, I can look after you. Trust us. I've got integrity. I've got leadership. I've got accountability. What a farce. So anyway, I would ask that you say to us, going forward, how should we proceed?
Sure. So a couple of things, at least. There's many things I can go on. I want to be respectful of time here. The first thing is that we need to slow down. Slowing down is really important with this because you want to get it right. The next thing is, like I said, this warning letter is not just to reiterate something that has been told to me before the RM received any legal advice. This is not just a letter. This is a letter from a group of constitutional lawyers. I'm telling you, they've emailed me, they've said and given me and told me that they want to help residents if, say, their rights are curtailed. So I'm saying the most I mean by the most trivial grounds, just to be very clear. I'm talking like even just a sign. Say, for example, if this council removes somebody for, say, having a sign, they want to hear from them. I'm just saying the bar is very low on this. And so you need to get this right. Next, if there is any information that can be given to the public, because the public has this, they have this. This is all they have. They don't have the RM side of this. They don't have that. As a researcher, I think it's important that the public, they have information. We also have this information. I think it's important to have that for constructive dialogue. Because, for example, what if, say, the RM has a really good argument for disregarding this? I would like to hear it, right? I would yes.
I just want to say to you that when I was growing up, an experiment that we did, I was in political science. We examined the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it was very integral. It was important. I know why Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau did it. He wanted to expand and provide freedom of expression. Whether you agree with him or not, that's another issue. But the Charter of Rights is an integral document to our Constitution and how all citizens ought to live and have the ability to express their thoughts, whether we agree with them or not. That doesn't matter. We should all have our opinions and all express our thoughts. But you know what? This council is entertaining tonight the option to shut that down, to not only limit it, but to eliminate it. Not to limit it, but to eliminate it. And that in itself is a charter advocate's constitutional charter of rights. Isn't it in the jurisdiction of that?
This is one thing. If someone wants to reach out to them and ask them about this, I'm sure that, again, as I've explained to council, they did an analysis of your public decorum section, in relation to the procedure bylaw. I'm sure if you ask them to look at other sections or other parts of this, perhaps they may be interested in that. But most certainly, I'm just telling you, I'm deeply concerned about the fact that there's a real possibility that we can remove the ad hoc nature of residents coming here to express themselves to council in an orderly manner by declaring it either as disorderly or eliminating it altogether. So it needs to be stressed. That is what is on the table when you eliminate question period right now. It's because otherwise it will be filtered. As speaking as a guy who loves thinking about procedures, that's my expertise. I'm explaining that is the only way now. If this procedures bylaw as it is written, what will happen?
Thank you, Mr. Page. Then we will get back onto the agenda here. Can I read that? Is that number 7? We'll get to a question period. That we have 15 minutes for questions there. Not yet. We'll go online first. What was that?
I want to be efficient. I don't want to.
Sure. We'll go online first. Nobody online? In the audience?
Well, I see Janet.
Janet?
Good evening. Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Janet Nyland. I live in Oak Bank. I have questions on 2 points. One is on 12.4 on your agenda, the Recreation Maintenance Reserve Act Transfer Report. and well, I guess it also ties into 12.2, the financial statement. But the recommendation out of that report makes reference to 4 reserve accounts. And those reserve accounts actually don't exist, but I think they're sub-accounts to the bigger account. So I'll give you that. But my question is the financial impact on the report. It says after the transfers of funds, there will be approximately $666,582,077. So, okay. But then I looked at the October financial statement, which is your also on your agenda. And it's, if you go to that report and you look at FR 0010 or the 10th page, it shows that in October, that was exactly that balance. So can you explain to me how you're going to remove from the reserve $70,610.27 and end up with the same balance that you had in October? My question.
Well, I have to refer that to our CEO. We may not be able to get you an answer, but we can get back to you, but I'll refer it to our CEO.
So if I understand what you're asking is, we're removing 70,610.27, leaving a balance of 666,582.77. Those are up to date numbers.
Okay, but in October, on your financial statement, that's exactly the balance that you're showing. And we're now on December 19th. And you're taking out $70,000. Now,
yeah, these expenditures took place throughout the year, and we just do one reserve transfer by resolution. So these probably took place like during the summer months. And now
So
we're
you're
just
saying-
asking council to approve the transfer.
Oh, okay. So you've got a delayed resolution.
Correct.
So
yeah.
council, why wouldn't you have a resolution before, like?
It's in the
Okay.
budget to approve under operating, but we always do kind of a lump resolution once a few have, you know, projects have been done, and then we bring it to council, and then we make that transfer from the reserve.
So like, and so the balances of the community club reserve accounts, sub-accounts, I would call them, have they been adjusted accordingly?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
2 minutes left, ma'am.
pardon?
2 minutes left.
Thank you. The other one is on your procedure bylaw, and has, it's going to be a big issue tonight, I'm sure, and I won't dwell on it, but has all of council read the bylaw? Like, have you read it? Because
Yes.
on, my point is on 11.1, under delegations, it reads, all presenters shall register with the CAO at least 2 days or 48 hours in brackets, and then in brackets, Monday at noon before the council meeting. So, like, I don't understand that. Like, this is clause inaccurate. It's confusing to me. 48 hours before would be Sunday at 6 p.m. or it should read 30 hours if it's going to be Monday at noon. It doesn't make sense. My point to all this is that if council doesn't allow the public to participate in your meetings during question period and put other eyes and opinions on what your reports are saying and the information that is going out to the public and the information that council is basing their decisions on, then we're going in blindly. Like, these are 2 very small minor things, but they were on the agenda tonight and I could speak to them. but it shows the importance of public participation. And I really do hope that you keep in your agenda the question period, even though you don't like to listen to us and you don't like to have to deal with us. Thank you.
Okay, the Monday there, Colleen, can you address that? That's Monday at its latest there?
So I think when we were first talking about it, it was 2 days. So, you know, it's always kind of been the Friday before the meeting, but then council agreed to lessen that to 2 days. But then at some point in the discussion, they also would accept it up to Monday at noon. So that was put in brackets. I know it doesn't make sense. That was the discussion that came from council. So, you know, they're welcome to amend that, take out the Monday at noon, take out the 2 days, and have Monday at noon as the final cutoff. I think this was a point for council to allow people to see the agenda on Friday and then still be able to request delegations on the Monday.
Up
Well,
until Monday at noon.
Can I respond? Because you can't have it both ways in your bylaw. Have it one way.
Yeah, correct. And I pointed that out to council, so they may want to look at that one before approving and decide if it's Monday at noon or 2 days or what they want it to look like.
As a cutoff.
Yes.
Okay. But just adding as Monday at a latest as a cutoff. Is that the way the council looks at that as well?
So when we had that discussion, I agree with you, Janet. I was a little confused from it myself. So I wanted clarity today with that. But I agree with Colleen on that there's been a lot of discussion that's happened between this. And the last thing we did state was the Monday at noon, because it allowed the agenda to go out Friday. And then the residents had the chance to sign up as a delegation Monday because they had the weekend to review the agenda over the weekend. So that was the last bit, but it can be clarified and cleaned up today.
Oh, and I appreciate that, but I also hope you appreciate the point that that's never been discussed, and people do look at what you're doing, and we do want to participate and make a better bylaw out of it. Right? So you can't have conflicting information in a bylaw. And I pointed that out, and I appreciate that you're going to put it on Monday because that makes good sense. No staff is working on Sunday, so it's good. But you got my point.
Thank you. Somebody in the audience? Karen?
My name's Karen Inslee. I live in Sunnyside. I have one question, but I have comments to support my single question. And it's regarding the removal of question time. Can you all hear me? Okay. In last week's clipper, the CEO commented that the amount of inquiries has increased and that staff are struggling to keep up with the information requests being called into the office. How many of those inquiries are actually the same question being asked? No, I'm not expecting a statistical report from you, but suppose you get 50 inquiries and they are all asking the same question. Is it not more efficient to keep question time so that you have one person asking the question and then the other 50 can listen into the audio playback on the website, assuming that there's no segments of the recording where the microphone actually gets accidentally turned off? If question time is eliminated, many will and already do perceive this as the council avoiding accountability, maybe withholding information, or that council is unwilling to engage with their community. This undermines trust and actually makes it harder for us to support you as council with initiatives going forward. Removing question time also gives the impression that you do not have the answers to those questions, but you've been in your role for 2 years now. And although I tell my husband differently, none of us know everything. But if after 2 years of being in a job, you don't have the confidence or knowledge to answer on the spot questions, then maybe whatever profession you're in, it's time to consider changing your jobs. It was mentioned that question time should be removed because it's the same people asking the same questions. My thoughts on this. I understand that hearing the same questions repeatedly can feel frustrating for you as council. However, this repetition highlights that the community still sees that there are unresolved issues. Instead of viewing this as a problem, can it not be seen as an opportunity to identify why these concerns persist and we keep asking the same questions and work towards providing answers and solutions instead of removing the opportunity for us to seek answers? This should not be seen as an inconvenience, but rather as a signal that the community needs more clarity, more action, communication with maybe updates and timeframes. With regard to the same person asking the same questions, again, my primary and major concern on this are, since our mayor took office, I think everybody in this room and many online have witnessed many outbursts from Mr. Terrian. Professionally, I teach in the corporate field addressing behaviours, civility and being respectful as it relates to our personal and professional relationships and how it affects our mental health. Our mayor's verbal outbursts and body language, and this is what I study and present professionally on, has been both disrespectful and perceived by many as abusive. At one meeting, our mayor told one resident to sit his ass down, raising his voice at multiple others, dismissing and refusing to acknowledge some, calling the police and even shouting, raising his voice multiple times. Being subjected to this type of behaviour
Is
can...
there a question here?
Yes, there
Mrs.
is.
Inslee?
I'm giving you support on. I know that you were
You've
going
got
to
one-
interrupt me.
you've got
I
1
have
minute left.
5 minutes and I've got a question, and I did explain at the beginning that I needed to give you the supporting information behind my question. So if you would like, please let me finish, and I'm allowed to. Being subjected to any disrespectful behaviour can come across very intimidating and very threatening to some. And I can understand completely how the less confident person would not want to publicly address their concerns, hence the same people coming forward. Because professionally, I can appreciate even how the most confident of speaker could be thrown off by such behaviours. So it's understandable why those who are not confident public speakers and feel intimidated or threatened by outbursts would probably prefer for someone more confident than themselves to ask the questions, and which is why the same people are continually standing up and speaking at meetings. Having previously served as a school board trustee, we were not there to make friends, but we were there to get a job done. And although we don't have to be friends, we do have to be friendly. I admit that we had heated discussions and disagreements at the school board table, but regardless of this, at no point, regardless of what personal, professional thoughts or opinions I have about anybody I served with, at no point ever did I witness our board chair or senior administrators shout, raise their voice, tell a parent or spectator at the meeting to sit their ass down, or be rude to somebody who came to one of our meetings. Again, I repeat myself, I am not asking for us to be friends, but I'm asking for us to be friendly. Last week in the Clipper, some concerned and passionate individuals and groups were being referred to as a mob. This is not being friendly. So to sum up my conversation, I attended a meeting here earlier in the year. I can't recall the topic. I believe it was related to some infrastructure, maybe development proposal. But during the presentation, the speaker said that the bylaw and the project recommendations must serve the best interests of the municipality stakeholders. As I listened to him, I got my phone out and I looked up who qualifies as a municipality stakeholder. It included businesses, organisations, but us as residents are stakeholders of municipal stakeholders. I stood up and spoke that night and said that the proposals being recommended by this particular person, and I apologise for not being able to remember what it was about. I said that the proposals being recommended did not serve the best interests of the stakeholders. All bylaws should serve the best interests of us, the stakeholders, and removing question time does not serve the best interests of your municipal stakeholders. So my question that I'm getting to now is, how does it serve the best interests of your stakeholders, aka me and everybody else in this room, by removing question time?
That's what we're going to be discussing here. So that's
Yeah, I'm asking a question, so I'm asking you to answer my question. How does it serve the best interests of me as a stakeholder and everybody else by removing question time?
I'm going to address that when we do our bylaw there after question period.
I'm asking you a question, like that's what question time is. I'm asking a question and you're not answering it.
It's not, we got people that shout out over other people here. It's disorderly. It's dysfunctional. It hasn't worked in 2 years. We've tried to mitigate question period several times. We were prepared to close it down last November, in my opinion there, but council came up with a trying to mitigate the issue there, and it stayed the same. And it hasn't gotten any better. Our time can be better utilized using that time with our agendas. Delegations are still present. We have cell phones, we got emails, and I get hundreds and hundreds of emails over a year's period there. I answer every one of them. I get phone calls
Actually, I can
let me
disagree
speak.
with that.
So I answer every email and every question there. So I'll be talking further about that.
I've never been disrespectful or shouted at anybody in a meeting. I did talk extra loud tonight because I wanted everybody to hear, and obviously I do present professionally, but like I say, my question is, how does it serve the best interests?
I answered your question, ma'am.
You
Anybody else wants to answer
Can
that?
somebody tell me what the answer is? Oh, okay, Mark, sorry, you've got a question for me.
No, I don't have a question,
okay.
but I just was thrown off a bit. The mayor said we tried to close down question period last year. I was definitely not part of that we again. But, and I don't think Councillor Kaczynski, he would never, ever want to limit people's questions. So it's very evident there's an agenda. That's to eliminate the public accountability, the ability for you to question the mayor and our council. And I think that's absolutely wrong. So he can't come up with one reason other than it's dysfunctional and he doesn't like it. He doesn't like the questions. He doesn't want to be accountable. He doesn't want to be transparent. He'll be accessible by the cell phone. But Dr. Page and others have told me that when they phone the mayor, they don't get a response. So sure, he responds to hey, Dr. Page just alluded to that, and others have said the same thing. So sure, you do respond to, I'm sure, most of them. I'm not going to say you don't. But why would we take away this public forum for the public? The mayor just indicated to you, let him speak. But what I wrote down is we can use our time better. When you're an elected official, your time is best used when you're engaging with the public. Every parliamentarian would know that. They hate being on Parliament Hill. They love being in their riding to engage with the public, with all of their stakeholders, for and against, all the time throughout their tenure. Why aren't we doing that? Why are we even entertaining this resolution to stop the public to engage with us? Oh, phone them, yeah, text them and all the rest. That's a bunch of hooey. That's a cover up. That's an opportunity to shrug it off. As I say, not only to limit, but to eliminate the public. So I think you're absolutely right. You can't come up with one real good reason why the public should be eliminated.
And I wanted to reiterate that, like, no, I can't remember which meeting I attended, but whoever was presenting at the time, they said all bylaws should serve the best interests of the stakeholders. And all of you were there listening to this presenter, and I will have to go back and find it. I don't know when it was, but you all agreed with this presenter saying that all bylaws should serve the best interests of the stakeholders. So I'm still waiting for my answer, but I don't want to take up any more time and take away from anybody else that wants to actually speak. So
thank you. We have time for one more. We have 15 minutes and we're beyond that. Okay, we got one more question. That'll be it. Sorry, ma'am. He had his hand up before you. You're the last question. Go ahead.
I'll be as short as I can, and hopefully we have time for someone else. I'd like to.
No, you're the last question, sir. So you got that.
I'll try
Okay?
to take the least amount of time for the benefit
You
of
got
everyone.
5 minutes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. It won't even take that long. I'd like to talk about alternatives to question period. Obviously, I want question period to remain, and we've had many discussions why it's important. The alternatives I've tried to question period, I've tried sending emails before. They may only be read by one person. In other experiences I've had outside of municipal business, I've had emails answered to me, and then I spoke to the person, and when I brought it up in a conversation, they said, this is the first I've heard of it. And I've talked to people and said, like, who writes your emails? Because that email with your name on it may not have been written by you. I can't tell that because I don't see somebody. So my concern is if we try to email, it may not be seen by everyone. Councillors and the mayor may not be able to review it with each other. I don't get to see someone's reaction if there's sincerity, if there's a lack of sincerity, if what I'm talking about is not deemed valuable or concerning. I've had phone calls before with yourself, Mr. Mayor, but none of the other councillors know what our phone call was about, so I'm not able to address everyone. So with all that considered, I really want to know, let me ask yourself, Mr. Fuel, what do you have as good alternatives to question period? If you're looking at removing question period, what does council have as good alternatives for this that will work?
You address it through the chair, sir.
Oh, okay. I'd like to ask Mr. Fuel a question, Mr. Mayor.
What is the question?
What does council have for good alternatives when these things like phone calls, emails, one-on-one communications don't work? What are good alternatives to replace? Like if you're looking at removing question period, what are the good alternatives that will work in order to replace this?
If Councillor Fuel wishes to answer that, by all means.
I have no problem answering this. So as I spoke before at the open house, there's delegations. So I have some proposals for delegations. I also have where we could add on the website for questions to be answered through the website. Also, there's my email and there's my phone. I've talked to 99% of every email I submitted to or talked to somebody. I don't plan to change that. I didn't run to not talk to people. So again, the delegation, we talked about structure. I talked about it first thing at this meeting. We need structure right now, and it's the only reason that I feel that we need to go this route. Because right now, the structure in the last 2 years has been the worst council that I've sat on in these 10 years, and we need to fix that.
And also, can you describe a bit about how question period has worked in the previous 2 terms that you're involved in? Has it worked well?
The question period in the first term, we didn't have question period at the beginning. So when question period was introduced, it was a little chaos again, not quite like this. So there was what would happen is we had somewhat of a split council then. And what happened was that the meetings went till 11:30 at night. So we listened to everybody. Did we actually get things done? Not exactly. The second term, we got things done. Okay, and we could review of term what we did in the middle of 2014 to 2018. So what I'm looking for is we need some structure. You can sign up as a delegation. I have some ideas around that. We'll talk about that through council. And again, it's up to council to decide in the end.
Okay, and so just a couple of concerns I've asked before about people who aren't involved with technology and internet, elderly, people who aren't quite educated. How can they do it? How can they communicate, get their questions answered? People are used to.
They can use a phone, they can email, they can do what they're doing now, sign up as a delegation, and it's structured.
Yeah, because I'm saying, I know I have people in my family that don't have internet or email, and
So how are they doing it now?
they'll come to this meeting if it's important.
They can come to the meeting. The meeting's still open to the public. They just don't have question
They can
period.
come
They
as
have,
a
they have
delegation.
delegation. They have delegation. They just don't have question period.
So my last question is, I'm asking you all to consider before you vote, is this really going to benefit all the residents? We've got the people who are working hard with their families. I missed another event with my family tonight. They're all out together doing an activity as a family, and they're upset that I'm not there. Okay, and my kids, they really like this community and they plan on living here. And there's a lot of things that are changing, and there's elderly people that this just doesn't represent the people. Is very simple, and I really strongly urge you to consider that before voting, if it's really going to benefit somebody or if it's just going to be a bit of a temporary fix. So I think I can leave it at that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, what was that? Bear. B-Y-E-R. Okay, Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would make a motion to extend question period this evening.
Here, like I expected this, but we have been under this.
The motion's on the floor. I don't know that you can speak to it yet, but
Okay, then
I would suggest 15 more minutes.
That's reasonable.
And there's a number of people, how many in the audience? That would probably suffice.
Okay, as CEO is writing that up there, we are at the point here where we're about to discuss the procedural bylaw. We have been discussing this for 2 years now, the question period here. We have been through this thoroughly. Another 15 minutes there's nothing's going to be discussed that's any more than what we've heard in the months and months and months before this that we haven't heard. That's there's a certain point where we have to we can't to delay. This is something here that we have to start addressing, and that's what we're going to discuss as a council under 9.1 is to extend it 15 minutes. I'm going to be the bad person here, right? Stop and question period there, but this is a council decision. In my opinion here, that we don't have to extend it for 15 minutes. Then we're going to have another extension for another 15 minutes there. We have to go with structure here. The structure, we can't deviate all the time. I'm talking now, Mr. Mackling. I'm talking. So we have to address this now
Point of order.
as a delegation.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was the mover of the motion. I should be able to speak to it, and
Well, everybody's going to speak to it, but
but of course, you set the tone on your rules, and I'm a little bit frustrated at
There's
that.
no
Again,
rules.
the gift
There's no
would be
rules.
Robert's Rules of Order to this mayor. So having said that, you want to eliminate question period for a whole host of reasons, because you don't want the accountability. We all saw his election material: honesty, openness, transparency, accessibility. I voted for this guy.
Okay, I'm not
And
here
what
to
I'm
be.
saying, I'm
not
speaking
here
now,
to be
Mr. Mayor.
attacked
I'm
by you,
speaking to the
Mark.
motion. I'm not
So
attacking.
have you got
I'm
something
saying,
to add to this?
are you accountable in being accessible, transparent, and having an open government? If you are, I would suggest you go to Beijing, China and represent the Communist Party because you're closing out the public. And that's reprehensible. In fact, I'm going to go as far to say that there's some positives out of this. There are some real positives. That there is some clear disdain and disrespect of the public in this chamber. And it's not by me. And I don't even think it's by Councillor Warren or Councillor Fuel or Councillor Kaczynski. But this was entertained by our mayor, who, the last mayor who tried to stymie and close down people, was booted high and to the States like she'll never come back again. This will cement the unelectability of people in 2026. Anyone that votes to close down the public, show me one example in public administration where a government, municipal, provincial, or federal, when they close down the public, there is not one person who gets reelected. And I'm not saying we need to get reelected, but what I'm saying is that is a death wish. It's a legacy issue. Those people who vote to close question period tonight, that will be their legacy, long lasting. They'll be remembered as it was that councillor, it was that mayor who said no to me because my voice isn't important. Oh yeah, it's important on October 28, 2026 when we kick them out. But it's not important now, 2 years in. You know what kind of damage can be done within the next 680 days towards the next election? Huge, huge. That Silica absolutely is coming back. I'm opposed to it strongly. You know that. I'm transparent.
I think I'm going to read the resolution that's on the
Just
table
read
now.
that. Read the
Be it
resolution.
resolved that council extend question period for 15 minutes.
Point of order, who allowed the CAO to speak now? Mark is speaking,
Well,
so
nobody's
please
speaking
let him
for
finish.
the
I spoke at the exact
resolution.
same moment the CEO did. Like, we're ready now to vote on the
You
resolution.
can move a motion and speak on it, but nobody's speaking on the motion now. So now we're just kind of off in other territory.
That's your opinion.
No,
And I take
let's-
disrespect from that because I'm leading down to a preamble.
I was going to speak up. I was speaking up at the same time.
There we go, the
You're
authority of the
campaigning.
RCMP officer of
You're
35 years.
campaigning, Mark. This isn't a
I'm
campaign.
not campaigning, but what I'm
Just
saying,
read the
you're
resolution.
cementing-
Let's vote on it.
You're cementing your legacy, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for
No.
doing that.
No, just
I
let
think
the
just
voters
to
vote
be fair
for
to the
you.
residents that want to speak, if you're going to extend, we should let them speak now. So, yeah, be it resolved that council extend question period for 15 minutes.
Those in support, the show of hands. Mark,
I have all my-
Andy, and Glenn. Those opposed? Melinda and Glenn.
I have everybody's notes. So I heard everybody, well, we're going to listen to it all. So that's fine. I have all my notes. Mr. Mackey, you want to read them with me after? And we can share.
Is there anyone online? 15 minutes.
Okay, well, we have 15 minutes there. This is White.
Good evening, Carolyn White, resident of Springfield. My question is for Councillor Fuel. Councillor Fuel, you are the most experienced councillor in this room tonight. You are serving your third term, and I know you have heard many residents' questions in these chambers over the years and have helped navigate many solutions along the way. The ability for Springfield residents to walk into chambers and ask a question has been part of our rural municipality history book since 1873. Springfield residents are proud of this history. We witnessed in October in Dugald how upset residents are of losing this right. So this is a big one. People are going to remember this. My question is, Councillor Fuel, do you want your legacy to be that your deciding vote tonight is the reason questions will be abolished in the RM of Springfield Chamber for the first time in 151 years, since 1883?
First of all, the question has to go through the chair, and everybody's going to moan and groan about that, but that's
Okay,
the
I'll do
procedure.
it. Okay,
No,
so
you don't have to, ma'am. I understand it wasn't deliberate. So, to personally point or ask a question of a counselor, it has to go through the chair for a specific reason. Otherwise, people are going to be asking for questions all over the map here. I'll ask Councillor Fuel if he would like to answer that. Otherwise, I'll answer it.
Yeah, I have no problem answering this. So you're right, I've been on council for 3 terms. We did not have question period all 3 terms. We only had question period probably in the later half of my first term. So as I said before, and I said this publicly in the open house, I'm not against question period. What I'm upset that needs structure right now. So what I'm looking for is structure. I'm not saying people can't speak. That's why I'm presenting something for delegations. Okay. I'm also looking at a question time to be on the website so people can ask their questions online for administration and council to get back to people.
that's a good idea.
Okay. So I'm not closing people out. I don't want to do that, but I want structure here. And right now, in the last 2 years, we've had not very much structure. And I think everybody at the table would agree to that. And if you don't, just go back and listen to some of the audio reports. Okay, so here's where I go with this. The delegations, and again, I'll get more in detail because we're getting there, okay? I'm looking at that we have 10-minute delegations, okay? So we can have up to six delegations. Let's use an example of the library today. The library is an important piece of this community. They deserve 15 minutes, even a little extra. Same with delegations. If it's important, I don't think there's been a time that we've said no, absolutely not. I think there's adjustments that we can make to that. But again, we need structure. So let's start with some structure, see how it goes. People don't like it, come and let us know. Let me through emails, all of us.
We're letting you know now, but
I'm not happy now. I'm going to
Okay.
tell you right now. Okay, I'm not happy the way this structure is today.
this, on behalf of
How much time
residents,
have we got left?
we've had to deal with pretty big issues in the last 2 years. Water's been a big one. That hasn't been dealt with in the last 20, 30 years. That's why there's been a lot of passion and a lot of interest and a lot of emotion, is because we're dealing with pretty big issues. And that's, people are here because they care. So it's coming down to you, Glenn, tonight. And
That's okay.
and you know what? When you do say that question period only happened in the last term, with the previous Reeves question, you could come into council and ask questions at any time during the night of a council meeting. That's been the history since 1873. So we want to retain that. And the Dugald Forum, people were passionate. People, it's a basic right to ask a question. And I just want to leave it with one thing about the delegation. I'm appreciative that you are looking, Glenn, at different ideas. I appreciate that. And I think that's good give and take. But I was struck by one woman at Dugald meeting, Jody. She's a young mom with a farm. She struck me because she said, I'm so busy. I would never even be here tonight, but I believe in question period. I don't have time to look at agendas. I don't have time to put a delegation. I only find out about something that's going to pertain to my property, maybe the day of it, maybe at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to be shut out. There's lots of working families. There's lots of people who don't have a clue what's going on until the day of a council meeting. You're shutting those people out. So we're looking to you, Glenn, tonight. We can work together and satisfy the stakeholders, as this woman said. I didn't know I was a
Hey, ma'am.
stakeholder. Okay.
Your time is well over, but thank you. Ma'am, you were next. Gloria, you're next. Her.
I'm Karen Watchhorn. I live on Pine Ridge Road. One of the good things about question period is you can hear other people's questions. Sorry. It's okay. You can hear other people's questions. I had a question for Councillor Fuel and Councillor Warren. One of those has already been answered, so I don't have to ask that one again. But I've got a question for you, Mr. Mayor. In civics class, I was taught that the reason for having 3 readings to decide something is so that the people who are making the decisions can go away and ponder them and research and find answers. If you're going to have second and third reading 10 seconds apart from each other, why have 3 readings? Why not just rubber stamp it? Why call it 3? Isn't that making a farce of
No.
What's the point of having second and third reading 5 seconds apart?
This has been the way it's done in this RM for many, many years, ma'am. This isn't something that we came up with in the 2 years here. This has been the procedure for many, many years, and it's done in other RMs as well. You're right with regards to the civics process there. You did the first reading just to table it. We've had discussions on this issue in ad orem.
But why
Often,
call it,
many
second
times.
and third reading if it's basically the same thing? You're rubber stamping.
It's not, there's no rubber stamp at all, ma'am.
It's a farce.
We have, it's not a farce, ma'am. I disagree with that.
What's the difference between
Well,
second reading and third reading then?
There really isn't. It's just that it gives time there.
Exactly.
We're putting it all together, second and third. This is how we've been doing it for forever.
If you've been doing it that way forever, you might have been doing it wrong.
Well, I don't think so, ma'am. It's been working quite well there right now. And you could get back in the records there. This has been going on forever there. How much time have we got left? No, we don't. We got 6 minutes. Sir, you're not a resident in the RM of Springfield, are you?
No.
Okay.
Is that a requirement?
Yes, it is a requirement. Who else? Cheryl? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Gloria.
Okay,
We got the time for yourself, Gloria, and then Cheryl.
thank you very much. I'm not at the meeting tonight because I've heard that there's a stomach bug going around Oakbank, and I'm immunocompromised. And when people talk about stakeholders, there are a lot of people who have a hard time expressing themselves. They may have problems getting to meetings for one reason or another, but they have contributed. And I'm talking about elderly people too. There are people who have built our municipality and have contributed in all kinds of ways. And when we talk about tell them to use email or tell them to use phones, there's 2 problems with that. One is nobody else knows what the discussion is, and people keep trying to say that. And I'll address that to everybody because, yeah, it's great. I myself don't even use a cell phone. I don't see it as useful or valuable to me, but I think I still have something to contribute to our community. And I want to take it a little bit beyond stakeholders, but just common good. And when you talk about structure, Mr. Fuel, I think we all want structure. I don't think anybody likes to rant and be upset and get emotional and, stand up and cause a disturbance. Nobody wants to do that. We all want what's right for our community and what's right for each other. We do a lot of caring for each other, taking care of those who can't do certain things for themselves. And we vote for you and hope that you'll be the representative who will be there and look after us and look after the common good. And the thing about delegations, well and good, but I have no idea what happens to something I've submitted. I never know, like I may see something great that Dr. Page has talked about, but if it's incorporated, how do I know that? How does anybody know that? It's not a transparent method at all. It's limited and it takes a lot of preparation. Not everybody can put together something the way Janet Nyland can. The people who come before you are so skilled and competent and capable. They come with value that they're presenting to you. And time and again, I see them rejected. I see their intelligence, their integrity dismissed and treated like an inconvenience, or even worse, they're denigrated at times. Another point I'll make is I keep hearing over and over again that other RMs don't have question periods. Well, shame on them. You shouldn't copy that ridiculous behavior. That's not something to emulate or copy. I think that's one of the lamest things I've ever heard, is that the other RMs don't do it. So don't leave people behind. That's the last thing I want to say to this group. And the woman who was just now trying to say that about second and third reading, she was speaking the truth. She was saying what is true. There needs to be sober second thought. That's nothing new to us. Why are we taking the path of least resistance instead of seeking integrity and doing what's right, even if it's the harder thing to do? So my question is this: who among you is bold enough and brave enough to support question period and save it for everybody in the RM, not just those who can show up at the meeting and those who can put their thoughts together and articulate them? That's hard work. And I just want to thank everybody who does this time and time again. If they're repeating a question, it's a good question, and the answer was not sufficient. So who's going to stand up for question period? Mr. Mayor, are you going to stand up for question period?
I can't tell you how I'm going to vote, ma'am. We're going to, when that comes up, then you'll know.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else?
Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Cheryl? What's going on? Mr. Antilla, sit down. Mr. Antilla, sit down.
My name is Cheryl Sinclair, and I am a tax-paying resident of Springfield. And I've heard tonight, and I've been watching basically, and what I've noticed is there's a lot of writing, there's a lot of staring off into space when people are talking. I would ask at the end of this, I would like to ask Mr. Tyrion if he could just tell me two things that Mr. Page said, just two. In the matter of delegations, I do not see how those will work, simply because the reason why public question period is being taken away is because there are certain people on the council who don't want to hear opposition to their views. And I've heard that up to 6 delegations will be chosen to be presented at council meetings. Will any of those be in opposition? Or is it all going to be people who agree with the council? We won't have our voices heard. And I just don't understand how you can possibly think taking away our right to express ourselves to this council, which is a Manitoba municipal bylaw. It is a law that we get to come before council at council meetings and ask questions and express our views. And how can you sit there and actually take that away from the people who put you in those seats in the first place? And I guess the last question would be, how much time between the release of the agenda and the deadline for delegation? And I believe they said it's like 48 hours. I believe that's, yeah. Yeah, so the question would be to the chair, who's busy writing, what two things can you pick out of Mr. Page's delegation?
I'm not going to answer that. You're just
Thank
looking.
you.
You're
You've just
looking
answered
for
my
your,
question. You just
response.
exactly. I'm looking
ma'am.
for a response.
That's not a question. That's a
I'm
comment.
looking for a response.
That's
My
a comment,
question
ma'am.
is, how many things, what did Mr. Page talk
I am not
about?
answering that, ma'am. I think
Do you not know?
you're out of line. You're
Do you not know?
trying to make a point
Mr.
with
Kaczynski.
the audience. That's all you're trying to do.
No, I want to
Go ahead,
know
Andy.
if you listen to the people who actually
And there's
come up here.
Mark Miller there laughing. What are you laughing about, Mark?
This is cutting
you
into my
laughing about,
time,
Mark?
sir.
What are you laughing about, Mark?
Six
Mayor,
Mayor,
oh, sorry, Mr.
I just want to point it out. You're being very inconvenient to the mayor right now because he
I'm
has
a
questions, because he
pain in-
was writing and he constantly writing something, not listening to the people, what people are saying. And that's why we have this problem right now. Nobody listens. Council doesn't listen to the people. It's like predetermine everything. People come and talk and talk and talk, even procedural bylaws, anything. How many people in the last meeting and Googled voice their opposition? They said, change this, please, change this, please, this. Nothing is in it.
I've heard Mr. Fuel say that in the last 2 years, question period has degraded. There's a common denominator there. And he's sitting in that chair.
Okay,
That's
sit
all I
down,
have
ma'am.
to say.
Oh,
You need
yeah.
to change your tone of voice when you talk to
You
the
have to be a little bit. You're rude. You're rude.
Mr. Mayor, that was very
Okay, that's-
disrespectful to
that's enough. We've had-
our resident.
Point of order. Point of order.
Hey, time is up. 15 minutes is up. 15 minutes is up, ma'am.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
I would ask Mr. Mayor respectfully that you apologize to Ms. Sinclair.
I will not apologize to Mrs. Sinclair. I will not apologize to her. Duly noted. Thank you very much. Okay, right on. So we got 15 minutes. 15 minutes is up there. Sit down, ma'am. We've already had our 15 minutes extension. It's done. We're done. We're done. I know you're going to come up here and just take the mic. You've done it before. So we're not allowing that. So the 15 minutes is done. So let's carry on.
Mr. Mayor, I think we should change our tone a little bit to our stakeholders.
Well,
No, not well.
you'll
You're
have-
not wearing a badge or anything else.
enough.
Just sit there and be.
You, whatever. Okay. So 15 minutes is up. Now we can proceed on to the next portion, and that's our bylaw 9.1. Okay, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You asked me a question why I laugh. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
I should laugh or cry. Because-
Here we go. Is this a campaign 101 again? I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired of this campaigning.
Talk about a bully, right? I'm laughing because I've never seen in my 30 years of professional experience a mayor or a chair or a facilitator be so disrespectful to the stakeholders who elected a person ever. And so I laugh because this is just beyond, it's a banana court. It's beyond belief.
I totally disagree. I think you're being a rude by laughing outright there while I'm talking there. This isn't a kindergarten class here. There.
What are you, Mr. Mayor?
No, what are
You're the
you? What are you,
35-year-old
Mark?
What are you, the 35-year-old RCMP officer that rules?
Here we go. You got a problem with being an RCMP? Is that
No,
what
I
you're saying?
respect them. I respect them so much, but
Yeah.
when they don't respect the public, that's when I become very
Okay.
intolerant.
Thank you. Then we're ready to proceed into the agenda. We're on item 9.1 there. Can I get a mover and a seconder for bylaw 2410 procedural bylaw second reading there, please? Melinda and Glenn. Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
What? Oh, you want me to speak? Sure, I can speak.
Go ahead.
Doesn't. I was unmuted. Just on this whole thing, we've listened to residents for the last 2 years, especially at the meeting in October, as well as the meetings that we had before. We had notes from Miss Akins that had some more detailed notes when we first started this, and we had more detailed notes from Heather Erickson on that, which we talked through and we did changes in the first reading. Now on the October meeting, when we had Edwin came and talked to us about public record, public input, questions and open dialogue, and the democratic views that and values that we have. Miss Lalonde actually had us look at the time frame between when people want to come as a delegation or when our agenda comes out, and that stretch. I'm just helping everybody recall what we've talked about in the last 2 years. We had Miss Mustard came and talked about 7.1, 7.2 in question period, and how she said years ago that people were raising their hand if they wanted to speak during a meeting. I don't know if that's even, because sometimes when you have people raising their hands and stuff like that, you're not listening, and now your attention, like we should have been listening to Cheryl here talk, your attention is no longer to the person at the podium, it's over here at people. I want to talk. So but Cheryl, you and I are doing eye contact, so I know I'm talking to you. Mr. Byers over there, he spoke a couple times, actually I think it's 3 times. Mr. Byers talked about our information is broad in October, and then actually Mr. Byers had talked about different things about who and why we do stuff, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Byers. And then the very last thing, which I find Mr. Byers said that we should all remember, is that people live here because we want to live here. That was your last statement that you made in October before the meeting ended. Yes, people live here because we want to live here. We're not shutting anybody out. We're trying to provide structure so we get your points to us and to where you want it to be. That's fine. You can agree, disagree. Mr. Page, like I said, Mr. Page, where did he go? Oh, there you are. Sorry, sir. He came tonight. He has delegation. He was added. And that's the thing. You're not blocking people out. If Mr. Byers' family came that evening and they really had a question which was on this agenda, and I know I used the word question, but they really had a concern about what the topic was that we are talking about tonight, he could ask to speak. And it's just a matter of council saying, yes, we want to hear what you have to say. If like Mr. Fuel said, and like he said he wanted to have 6 people speak, great. Everybody has 10 minutes, speak. But at least we know why Mr. Byers' family is here if he has a major question, because it's on the agenda for one, and possibly because it's on the agenda, we have the appropriate staff here to listen and to take notes, just like we are all taking notes, because we don't have the answers. It's our department heads and other people that have the answers. Like you said, you elected us to find the answers. Well, that's where I'm going. There was a few people that came in October that talked about our open houses and town halls that we don't have. And yes, 2 councillors here had, and thank you. People listened and came to your open houses. We had one in Enola last month. It was attended by about 40 people. You know, maybe not the right timing, but you know what? We're trying to get people out there. Now, when we talked about the procedure bylaw, we also talked about Mrs. Akins came as well again and talked about conduct. It's in our procedural bylaw, 11.4, and then she talked about 13, 1 to 4, if I'm not mistaken, Miss Akins. And then we had Helen, Helen came and talked about this room, for instance. We're only allowed 50 people due to a fire code. So, you know, and the limitations that we have. And because our area was so small, we took our procedural bylaw to a community club, which held more, right? We also talked about Zoom meetings, and Mr. Giesbrecht came again and talked about 10.3, 7, 11.0, 11.3, and 13.2, all on the procedural bylaw. Mr. Mackey talked about points of order and Robertson's Rules of Order. And if you want to buy me a Christmas present, you can buy me the 12th edition, because you said that night that was the latest edition, right? We had Mr. Cum, and Mr. Kuffner also talked about our code. And then we had Mr. Spears come, and he talked about our town hall. And we said that we were having one. Think about counties and engaging, right, Mr. And how the previous council were badgering people and dismissed people. Am I correct? Not correct? Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Miss Sinclair came and she talked about question period 2.B. And section 33 and section 33 and then section 2. So I wrote all this down so I can go and look at people's thing. Another lady came. What? You just did this. What? Oh, I'm sorry. You want me to quit? Because this lady talked, and then Miss Burbank talked, and then Rod Fraser talked, and Daniel Page talked, and Karen Lalonde talked, and Miss Sinclair talked again. Terry Roberts talked, and Susan Sennell talked, and like I have a list of everybody that's
A few, some more.
well, I'm
A
almost
couple
done. I'm
Okay,
almost
no,
done.
that's fine.
Rob talked about some issues, and yeah, the lady that had to leave her kids and she was doing stuff, she talked about like, because she just found out about what was on the agenda. So being more, whether we post something on the website that people can answer, put their questions there, and then their questions end up on our agenda with answers or whatnot. And then another lady talked, and Mr. Page talked again, and Mr. Byers stopped the evening and said people live here because we want to. So that's my notes from October. So I'm listening. I'm listening to all of you. I have to listen to what.
Hey, this is why question period is
There was
going.
lots. There was lots, Carolyn. There was lots. There was the there was the questions.
Okay.
Well, the fact is I listened and I wrote down what everybody was saying. And it's not just about question period. It's about some of the mechanics, like Mr. Page says. Sorry, Mr. Byer. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Melinda. Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Warren. You are a good listener and you take good notes, absolutely. But what you need to do is in the vote, you need to respect those people who clearly want to support question period going forward. So it's good to write notes and listen to people, but if you don't act on those suggestions, recommendations, and things, it's all useless, actually. So you may as well burn it. But having said that,
really,
I want to encourage you because delegations, as Councillor Fuel is suggesting, could potentially work to some degree. But we've seen over the last 2 years here that where delegations were in fact denied, where they are at the purview of the CEO as it's written in this procedure bylaw. So it takes away the accountability from the elected officials to an administrator, a bureaucrat. And while we entrust her, and I would give her credit, I have to tell you that it'll be you and the public and the 16,000 other residents that will have a barrier, and that barrier will be the CEO. In other words, you have to ensure that you have all the things in order to have the ability to talk to council. But I wanted to stress another thing. This is very, very dangerous. This date, December 17th, 2024, will go down in the history books, right? Because we know, if I'm a betting person, I would know how the vote's going to go. That's why I tried to defer it, to have some sober second thought on this. But December 17th, 2024 will be the date that the people were eliminated. You know, Pierre Poilievre says axe to tax. This council, or the people who will vote for it, will say axe the people, axe the public input. Clearly means control, limiting public engagement. It is an awful, awful dark day for Springfield. I will take that, as the mayor says, if I run again, I will take it to the October 28th election in 2026 and say, this is the record for these people who stand for re-election. And you better watch out, because there's been individuals in the past who made commitments who did not potentially uphold those, and we'll show the voting record to prove that. And so if I had a reputation in this community, the reputation I have is to uphold what the public say to me and expect from me. I get paid $36,000, $37,000 a year from you, from the ratepayers, plus other indemnities and costs and expenses. Having said that, this date, I want you to know, recorded in the history books, because it's probably not going to go very positive, despite their justification and their spin to say that delegations will work and that the questions have been irrelevant and the public has all opportunity to speak to them through emails and telephone calls. 680 days, folks. 680 days is what you're going to have to tolerate till the next election. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to sit here and I guess instead of cry, laugh sometimes, right? Because I'm emotional, and my wife's going to have to bear it. And she said to me last night, she said, Mark, why do you do this? Why do you get so stressed? Why do you get, because I'm passionate about our community. Our kids are here, like many of yours. I want this to be the best community on this council. If this goes through, I'm not sure I can say that. All I can say is we've just shut down the public, and we've done a whole host of other things that we could have been on a positive direction. We could have had extremely positive leadership, vision, opportunity. But this might be the date that the chapter changes.
Thank you, Mark. Andy?
Thank you. I want to point it out, I'm really with Councillor Miller on this issue, but our residents not supposed to be inconvenient for the people who are sitting here as a council. They should be embraced by council. That's the people that we represent. And if we're not listening to these people, then what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Everybody can take notes and you know, have maybe read them at home and everything. But words are cheap. It's the action that really counts. Action, what you do for the residents, what you do for this community. We putting our neck, me and Mark, we putting our neck on the line with the SIO, with the 21-25, with the budget. Budget is coming up. And people woke up in this previous election, when we was going from door to door and campaigning, people tell us, we don't want our previous administration who was here. That's why they get rid of them. We're supposed to be for change, and we don't see change. And why we doesn't change? Because mayor doesn't want to have a change, and he have people who follow him. And I don't know if this is right. This is not really reflect what the council is supposed to do to this community. We always supposed to embrace, and they saying, yeah, we talk with the phones, we have, you know, Zooms seated, we have this, we have that. We as a council don't see those things that coming to the administration. When mayor talk to the residents, we don't know what he's talking about. We don't know what answer he's giving to them. He's making deals with this, maybe some individuals who contact him. who want to
Oh,
contact
okay, hang
him.
on.
Well,
Point of order here. You're saying, are you alleging that I'm making
no,
deals?
I'm not alleging. I
Well,
said,
you're
I said,
saying,
I said,
you stated,
we don't
is he
know.
making deals?
I said, we don't know because nobody is in that conversation over the phone.
That's,
Even
carry
through
on, carry on.
the emails. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just stating what could be. Because you're going and you're talking with our politicians. If they give us grants, well, what the politicians want, what they get in return. That's the game it's played. And everybody knows that. Like it's not, we just didn't get born today that we just gonna say, well, look at, what's happening. Like every time we get some kind of grants, somebody, looking to get a picture because, he want to look good in the press. There is reason for it. He getting that picture so he can be exposed and then so people know that how wonderful things he's doing for our community. But we supposed to be council, supposed to be for the people who elect us. And if we don't go with this motion that we're gonna believe and people have trust in that, because I don't want to lose my trust with our community. I promise them I'm gonna make change. It's very
Sorry, Councillor
difficult.
Kaczynski, if I could just interrupt. If we could have quiet in the council chambers, please. Thank you.
So if I lose my trust with the community, then we don't have it. We don't have it. We're not going to progress in this community. And we have very, very important issue coming, and then people going to be locked out. We have budget coming up. We have issue that high items that we have to make decision on it. Water treatment plant, our lagoon, our rec center is coming up. And some other things that probably, through the public work that very expensive. And if we have to go to resident, ask, which way, what direction you're gonna give us. And if you cannot come and answer question period, then, or we cannot answer and you cannot participate in it, then we don't have a local government. We're gonna lose everything. And some people on this council don't understand that. We're not here for ourselves. We're for the people. We represent the people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Glenn?
Yeah, just to follow up, I'm here for the people too. Maybe we're not all on the same page, but I'm here for this community to grow and be successful and be sustainable. And these are words that I put in my campaign and I stick to them. Anybody wants to phone me can phone me anytime. I will definitely get back to you. And I've proven that time and time again. So do that. I'm still behind the delegation piece to keep more structure. I'm even willing to take the delegations to 90 minutes. We spent 3 hours almost talking on question period, and we're still, and I think I've proven myself today. I've extended with Dr. Page to allow him to speak for his 15 minutes. I've allowed question period to go an extra 15 minutes. So I'm not no on everything. I'm listening, okay? And I'm listening from this day forward, still going ahead. So, and if you want to look at 11.4 in our procedural bylaw, the chair may allow non-scheduled delegations, which Councillor Miller did today. So if any of you want to come to a council meeting and you want to be a non-scheduled, bring it forward. Council will decide whether you can speak or not. Nobody's saying no. You guys make it sound like we're taking everything away on you. We're not. I even added to put it on the web page, right? Let's do question period on the webpage. The agenda is going to go out. You have questions to that. You're hemming and hawing, some of you. Well, it's another piece. We're working together. We said we would all work together. Let's work together. Let's put some stability within these council meetings, and hopefully we can get there and work together. We will be stronger if we work together. We won't be strong if we don't. I've been in communities, and I've said this in the past. My business has been in small communities for 40 years. I'm no longer in business, but that's okay. The business has changed. But having said that, I've seen towns with 3 banks in go to 0, and I'm not lying. Langeruth, Manitoba. Okay? A small community that was growing when I first started, and now it's down to nothing. The last grocery store there. Believe me, this is reality. It can happen. So do not let this happen to Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll finish off the discussions here, and then we can go to our vote. I have been targeted. Know how long this has been going on here. I'm used to it. Unfortunately, I am just bloody well used to it for the last 2 years, and there's a point there where I look there and I'm how adults act there, and I'm taking some of the blame on that there, where people do the mumbling and laughing in the crowds there, especially this individual here. I recognize him. It's the same people that seem to be the behind the scenes sucker punches is what I used to call them there. These people have nothing to add to the discussions except for laughing and making snide comments there. I am particularly mad where a councillor starts using words like making deals and so on like that. I'm not going to identify him there, but anybody who insinuates that deals are made is a code of conduct. Absolutely. There and talking with other politicians. I think any mayor or any reeve that does not talk to their MLA, their MP, or anybody else in the local government should be chastised at the very least there. I've done many discussions with many ministers, many the premier himself. I've talked to him, just meet and greet points there. I'm wearing my RM of Springfield shirt at all times there. I am out canvassing for this community at all times there. I go above and beyond for my community here. And for people to make snide comments, I think it's just childish of people there where they figure they're in a mob there and how people react there during any debates there where people talk above other people there and not allowing other people to make simple comments there. I know there's 4 people that left here earlier there. Now, were they here to make some points there? I do not know. I just know that people have approached me saying, Pat, I want to discuss points here, and we were afraid to do so, and I saw them walking out. I said, I thought you were mad at me or something. And they said, no, it's just, I'm scared to talk there with the people here and the conduct that's been before us there. And I, at no point there in my career as an RCMP, there were people should be ever afraid to talk. That's not the point there at any time. This Councillor Miller has used the word communist a couple times in whatever phrases there. There's no point there where this can ever be construed as communism whatsoever. We have gone above and beyond with discussing this procedural bylaw above and beyond there to say that we're ramming this through is abhorrent there at the very least. There's alternatives to this. Our deputy mayor there has gotten an alternative there. It comes through delegations there. Their delegations are the way to go. There's 137 RMs in this province, and I know Mrs. Romaniak there, who I supremely respect because she's a very courteous and kind lady, extremely intelligent there, where she says, well, that's their decision, and I agree. But there's a reason why there's only 7 RMs that are still using the question period. And tonight, particularly, it hasn't been a bad night, to be honest with you there. Maybe because I'm so damn used to all this, this discussions and then laughing and stuff like that. I think if there's kids watching there, they should be, this is worse than watching stuff on TV, in my opinion there, how the conduct of some people goes above and beyond the reproach there and they're just ridicule of how we supposed to be role models there. And I said before, I do take some responsibility for that. But there's a certain point where push comes to push, and this is just ridiculous. How much crap that I have to take there, and I am tired of it there. I just how people here, they're going to leave here and they're going to be chuckling, and I really don't give a damn if they chuckle there. There's a time for it, and it's not here during chambers there. There's the last 2 years, we looked at trying to keep this going and going there, and we've had mitigations there, and we put it down to pertaining to the questions on the agenda. And it doesn't work. It's disarray and dysfunction there. We have accessibility to every councillor. Our CEO is accessible, our assistant CEO is accessible. You can come to the front counter, be accessible. Accessibility has not been denied in any form whatsoever. This time for talking and question period isn't working in this RM. It's not working in the other 130 as well. I can't talk for them, so I'll take that back. There's a reason for that, and the numbers don't lie there. And I'm sometimes I'm ashamed to be a member of the RM of Springfield here because of some of the conduct, here there. So that said, I think people change when it comes into to mob mentality, and I've seen it there where people act totally different there when there's a group of people around. It becomes dangerous. When I was in the mounted police there, it's a dangerous situation. This isn't dangerous. Don't get me wrong here. This is just abhorrent amateur behavior there on the part of some, and some people should be ashamed. And I'm not shy to say people should be ashamed of themselves there. But I'm saying we're not stopping people from having discussions and bringing their questions to a councillor, to myself, or to the CEO, and we can bring it up at any point through the governance process here through a committee of a whole. And we have discussed many issues. We discussed issues today with regards to during our meeting before this council meeting. So accessibility has not been denied. It's not being denied. It's still strong, and we're prepared to go forward with it. Do I think it works? I know so. It hasn't worked in the 2 years here. Delegations are the way to go. It's the way to go in other RMs as well. And then I think with that said, the final piece there, we'll read the resolution, and then we can vote on. Thank you. Okay, now we're prepared to read the resolution there.
So just to clarify, no amendments to the
No,
bylaw then?
there's
Okay.
some
Yes.
amendments.
Yeah.
Okay, be it resolved that second reading be given to bylaw number 2410, being a bylaw of the RM of Springfield to regulate the proceedings and conduct of the Council of the RM of Springfield and the committees thereof.
When do we want to do the amendments on the third one there? Is there something that you want to
No,
add?
council can discuss any amendments they want to the bylaw at this time.
So I believe the first amendment should be 11.1, that at least with the CAO, at least Monday at noon, and take out the 2 days in the 48 hours.
At least, or the latest, you mean?
To allow members of council to prepare for delegations,
Oh, okay.
all presenters shall register with the CAO at least Monday at noon.
At the latest. Would that be better?
Yeah, Monday at noon at the latest, if you wish. Monday at noon.
We're discussing here. Where is it that we want to discuss this amongst council?
It's a good question, but about long weekends, I won't discard that.
So even with a long weekend, I mean, Tuesday we'd be looking at our emails and be able to add that on. So I would still put Monday at noon. So we can amend that to say all presenters shall register with the CAO by Monday at noon before the council meeting.
Will you be looking at it there by then if it's a long weekend?
Well, it either comes by email or fax, so I would know when it comes.
Oh.
Or a phone call, so that's typically how we get delegation requests, so we would have a record of when we received it, but for a long weekend, I would not be concerned about that. It would be added to the Tuesday meeting.
That work with the council? Glenn?
I guess if the CAO says it could work, then I leave it to the residents that if there's a concern and it's not working for that reason of a long weekend, let us know. We're here to listen and fix whatever we need to fix.
This isn't the time or place to make comments like that, Andy. He's trying to help here, but you making this comments like that isn't helping. Something else?
That's your opinion.
It is. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, we could leave it the Friday or the Monday. It's kind of the options, right? So.
Well, I don't know. What if we're just to leave it at on the Monday there? Should we address if it's a long weekend there? If it's time stamped, there's a lot of ifs there. I think we need some clarity.
So
on
every
how.
request for a delegation, we contact them and advise them that their delegation has been received and accepted and the date and time they are to appear.
So you would let them know Tuesday morning?
We would let them know Tuesday morning that their delegation was approved for the meeting and what time they were scheduled.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have anything, or do you have anything further, Glenn?
Yeah, 11.0, the chair may limit the time taken by a delegation to 10 minutes. Unless otherwise needed for, like, example tonight, library. So again, in the discretion of what's needed, but trying to give it more of a guideline of 10 minutes.
See, what I think about that, Glenn, is that we've been very liberal with our time. It's
Yeah,
not 5 minutes. It's not 15. We go above and beyond with regards to that. Do we have to put that in there? Because we've always been very lenient and very flexible with regards to that. I'm just thinking adding more and more, but to add that in there, I got no problem with it. I'm just saying that we've been very liberal with regards to that.
Okay, I'm okay either way. I just, again, trying to allow as many delegations as possible. And then 11.2, to me, I'm open to 6 to 8 delegations per meeting.
Wow.
If needed.
That's with, okay, anybody else got any comments with regards to Mark?
Yeah, I would support Councillor Fuel's two amendments, friendly amendments.
Okay, well, you mean the one with the delegations as well?
Both.
Okay.
I would second that, just on basis of 10 minutes and allowing more people to be able to speak
Okay.
their.
Can we discuss? I'm in total agreement so far, but it's either 6 or 8. I think 8's too much. That's 80 minutes. If we were to 6 to make it an hour, would council be in agreement with 6 as opposed to 8? 80 minutes or
So
Glenn? Do you think? Because I'm good. If I think 8 is a lot, then you may have questions pertaining to that, and we're going to be going over the time. You see, if you know what that's likely going to be the case.
Well, I'd say a minimum of 6, because that was my first thought. But at the same time, I believe if there's if you're, I guess, at the discretion of the CAO, the importance of the delegations, I wouldn't want to see someone deferred for the reason between 6 and 8. That's all where I'm coming from. It's again that fine line, right?
I'm good with 8, if council's good with that. I'm just thinking that's a lot.
What's going to happen if we have 20 delegations, and how you choose, and what's going to happen with another 12 delegations?
So if council would allow me, would you just let me to go through all the research I've done on this point that might help you clarify this? So throughout this whole 2 years of discussion, I've been asked to, look up different information, how other municipalities are doing it. I get that people don't think we have to follow what other municipalities are doing all the time, but that was a question. So we've pointed it out. There's between 6 and 7 other RMs that use question period. But even those, when I've contacted them, they rarely have to use them. So they couldn't tell me how they were structured or how they were going for them because they don't use the question period. So I was asked to look at what other alternatives are there to question period. So a lot of the research I've done involved both Ontario and Manitoba. Delegations, I know that council's been looking at, either increasing the delegations, still allowing unscheduled delegations. I've noticed that most other RMs, and particularly in Ontario, don't allow delegations unless the matter has been attempted to be addressed through staff or council to no avail. So a lot of times they direct people to deal with staff or council, and if they still feel like the matter hasn't been addressed, then they come as a delegation and clarify what seems to still be the problem that they can address. Public submission forms. So a lot of municipalities use public submission forms along with their delegations so that when an agenda is put out, they can fill out a form that says, I'm referring to delegation number 9.1, and their attachments are then part of the public record. Council reviews them, the public sees them, and council reviews that information as part of their decision-making process. You've also talked about open houses and community forums. So we had our first one just a month ago. We didn't have a set agenda. It was more just to get feedback from people. We have about 25 people attend. But I think we've been looking at having those more often and having agendas where people know what the matter to be discussed is and will come out. We talked about budget. Well, we do have a community consultation for the budget each year. So those are all ways that the public can still speak to council or staff, ask questions if there's concerns. That's how we start to address these things. So I don't think just, loading up your agenda with 8 delegations is kind of going to help what you're trying to solve here. I think if people have comments and want to share that with them, with council and staff, they could be using a public submission form that would be added to the website, and it would be no different than, question period where they come up here and give their points, and council gets to view those in advance of decision making. So
Anybody else? Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under section 7.4 of the procedures bylaw that has to do with the agenda, I would ask as a friendly amendment to include under one of the points invocation once again. And my justification is for that the Council of Springfield pastors collectively have said to me that we should not be eliminating invocation. We've had some absolute flexibility with the type of invocation that we've had. It didn't have to be religious. It could be just words and encouragement. And we've seen all stripes of that. But I wanted to share that invocation is an important thing for me And it certainly is an important thing for the Council of Springfield pastors in our community. So do we shrug that off as well?
Anybody else? Guess I'm the last one there with regards to this. I'll start off just the latest, the invocation there. I think we've gone through this many times. You know, I'm not going to just ramble on there. And invocation there, we've already based. I felt that this invocation was already done with, to be honest with you. We've already discussed it many times there. And invocation, you know, it's just this is the chambers there, and I don't think invocation in chambers is necessary there. I do praying at my church, at the Catholic church in town here, and people do their prayers wherever they want. That's fine. I don't. It makes no difference to me. This isn't an invocation or prayer situation, in my opinion, here for the procedural bylaw. It's question period. That's the main elephant in the room here. So invocation, in my opinion, here, we've discussed this many times there. And like I say, I thought this was kind of basically done with there. The invocation is something that you know, should be done at your home there in whatever religion or whatever God you wish to do so. But I don't think it's in the chambers there. I've discussed what I thought there with regards to question period itself. The individuals, they go off a topic, some inappropriate behavior and comments and belittling staff. That's not acceptable anywhere in any point there. So we made a commitment to serve our community. We all did. We took our oath there and to provide a safe and secure work environment for ourselves and our staff. At the end of the day, this is the chambers for the public. Of course, taxpayers paid for all this around us there, but you know, that's we shouldn't be guided by the behavior of some there and the actions of some that made our community divided. And this work environment here could be toxic at times there. And we're here to protect our staff as well. I think I've discussed everything I had to say throughout the night here. So we're prepared for the resolution there. We can get it read with the amendments there.
So I don't think we finalize
Oh,
11
no.
the 10 minutes versus 50 and 11.2, the 6 versus 8, or
We want to keep it at change to 10 minutes and the number of delegations there. What our CEO has stated made a lot of sense myself there. I think this is just myself. If we were to changing it to 10 minutes and anybody else want to speak up with regards to this? I'm
Okay,
prepared to Melinda.
so friendly amendment that we do Glenn's 10 minutes of delegation with 6 delegations, with the opportunity that if there are more people that wish to speak on move up to 3 more or something like
But not at the time.
that day.
Then this question period all
That
over again.
day. But this is structured. It's structured. It's not a, or not. but that was the point, was that if somebody couldn't and they just showed up, that they could.
So I agree with Councillor Warren, more structure because we are knowing what they're talking about.
Yes.
It's not they're coming in to talk on any subject of what they want. The topic is given prior to, so council knows what they're talking about. That should help the structure in play. Having said that, I'm fine with the 10 minutes and the 6 to 8, like I said. So,
Well, I think it's 10 minutes is good, and I'm good with 8 as well. But I disagree with Councillor Warren there that we've had the question period where this is what we're doing. Where delegations, they have to meet that threshold by Monday at noon, or whatever the wording was there. It's not on my screen here. In advance, so we have time to research the items that are to be talked about there. For somebody, it's the exception. We're looking. The exception is there now for the last minute delegation, which is time sensitive there, and that should be the. It's not. It shouldn't be the norm. That's the exception. Exceptional rule is what I would refer to it as. There, if you, I don't want it to be abused or misused there, where all of a sudden everything is time sensitive and has to be handled at this time here. If we have 8 delegations that are coming forward, I think that's a heck of a long. That's a heck of a long time there for 10-minute delegations there. I guess that's the point. Do we want to do the 10 minutes, 6 or 8 delegations there? So I think Glenn wants the 8 there with the 10 minutes. I think we all agree to the 10 minutes so far. Mark and Andy, what do you think about the 6 or the 8 delegations?
I would say, Mr. Mayor, that we create another bureaucracy and we're getting ourselves in a deeper in a rabbit hole with everything. People are gonna come, they're gonna use this as an excuse, and delegations just gonna be what's on the agenda or gonna be open.
Well, that's what I was saying, that it could be abused like question period.
Well, of course it's gonna be abused because
so
you're leading people to that abuse.
How
because
am
you don't
I?
want to have
How
question
am
period.
I doing that?
Okay, well, we know how you're going to vote it. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm making a statement about it. Because we create something that work, you want to remove it, and you're going to put something else, and then you're going to experiment with it. And then you're going to say no and say, well, I still don't like it.
We're not experimenting at all, Andy. We're here to discuss it. We're discussing it. I think we've got an agreement with the 10 minutes there. I think that's what it is. Now, how many delegations are we going to allow?
That's why I asked, how about if 40 people are going to make a request for delegation? Then what are you going to do?
I don't think 40 is realistic, obviously.
About 50 people. Like, you don't know what's going to happen.
40 is
people
not...
just going to come with just to spike you. They're going to keep coming and talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're setting them public up. So.
Oh, Mark.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree that 8. It should be 8.
Thank you. And I would agree with 8, but not people coming up adjourn. There that has to be done with the rule there that we have in place the Monday by noon there. So we have an idea and time to research the question there. So any other amendments there? I'm not sure if our CEO is able to write up that so far.
Okay, so be it resolved that second reading be given to bylaw number 2410, being a bylaw of the RM of Springfield to regulate the proceedings and conduct of the Council of the RM of Springfield and the committees therefore as amended.
Okay, and those amendments are, just for clarity, for everybody?
So to clarify, 11.0 has changed from chair may limit the time taken by a delegation to 10 minutes from 15. 11.1 has changed to say all presenters shall register with the CAO by Monday at noon before the council meeting. 11.2 is changed to a maximum of 8 delegations. And then already amended 16.0 to ensure a safe and secure environment. Harassment-free has been removed. So those are the amendments that council's voting on.
Okay. Then this is the time that we'll vote there. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my screen here. What number is it that we're 9.1?
Yeah.
Then with the resolution as read there for bylaw 2410 procedural bylaw second reading, can I get a show of hands of those in support with amendments included as read? Melinda, Glenn, and Patrick. Those opposed? Mark and Andy, and it's so passed. And then if I can get a mover and a seconder with regards to bylaw 2410, the procedural bylaw third reading. Mover and a seconder, please. Melinda and Glenn.
Be it resolved that third and final reading.
Oh, Mark.
I'd like to speak to that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. As this is third and final reading and a very instrumental day for the RM of Springfield. Mr. Mayor, just like our current Prime Minister for the next days, weeks, months, he forgot to look himself in the mirror. He forgot to gauge the public sentiment. I'm afraid your comments today about doesn't give a damn, that's what you had said about these people.
I never said that.
It's on video and it's on recording.
That I don't give a damn about people?
He said it, you heard it. So
that's I take offense to that. I never said I don't give a damn about people.
You said, quote, doesn't give a damn.
Well, you could take everything out of context, but go ahead.
So as the spin is here, you can see how the mayor likes to spin things. He has just created the biggest divide, the biggest stake in this council that has probably ever existed. Councillor Kaczynski and myself will continue to uphold transparency, accountability, access to public documents, and the rest for the next 680 days. That's what I'm committed to do. And I can assure you, this is lining ourselves up for a charter advocate's constitutional challenge because we are locking out, closing out the public, however he wants to spin it. This is reprehensible. This is a disgusting, horrible, dark day for our municipality. And I assure you, those who vote for it, well, their record will be known well before October 2026. Those who speak and deliver, those who, as Councillor Kaczynski said very clearly, you can listen, but your actions are greater than words. So our actions have continued to be uphold the public trust by engaging with the public. This is, and I'm going to say it 25 times, the darkest day in our municipal council history. And I would love to have a cohesive, positive, as Councillor Fuel said, opportunities for our Springfield municipality, but it's going to be pretty difficult when you see this extreme divide between the mayor and certain councillors. And it's not a love-in. We should have different points of view and different expressions of concerns, but to lock out the public, we can have arguments and debate and discussion all we want, and that's healthy. But to lock out the public domain is just unbelievable and regrettable. It will be regrettable on October 28th, 2026, I assure you, to those who vote to ban the public, to restrict the public access. Absolutely.
I can't disagree with you more there, Mark, but that said, I think we've already discussed that. Andy?
Yes, I would say that we lost a piece of our democracy in our municipality. We as a people, we should not restrict the residents from anything. We should encourage them, embrace them, to welcome them and have questions for this council. And we have to be accountable for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then I don't have any further comments there. If we can do the reading, we can have our vote to 9.11 bylaw 2410 third reading.
Be it resolved that third and final reading be given to bylaw number 2410, being a bylaw of the RM of Springfield to regulate the proceedings and conduct of the Council of the RM of Springfield and the committees thereof.
Those in support with a show of hands. Those in support? Melinda, Glenn, and Patrick. Those opposed? Mark and Andy. And it is so passed. Then if we can get to no videos allowed, sir. Because it's in our procedural bylaw. You put your hand down, Mr. Page. No, we've already done this before. No, I have listened to you for months. No, I'm done. No, you've already had your delegation, sir, and that's enough there. We've already had the questions. I answered them all. We'll go to 10.1 community open house Q&A there. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? For 10.1 community open house Q&A. Melinda and Patrick.
Sorry, I didn't have a resolution prepared for this. I was just gonna introduce it as information.
Oh, okay. You want to do it as a consent agenda or?
Just for information, so we held our community open house in Enola, and there was forms for people to leave any questions that they wanted to be answered. So we took those questions and created a bit of a Q&A. So this will be posted on the website and just posting as for information. And we will contact those individuals with the answers to their questions that they left.
Yeah. So we don't have to vote on that at all?
Just for information, the council to see what questions were left with us after that open house.
Okay. Then we'll get to the consent agenda, please. That's if we can do 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, and 11.4 as a consent agenda there. If council is good with that, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Mark and Melinda.
Whereas a consent agenda has been submitted consisting of 4 items, be it resolved that the said consent agenda be received as information.
Any questions from council at all with regards to that? I see none. Can I get a show of hands, those in support of the consent agenda as specified? That is unanimous and it is carried. If we can get to 12.1 there. 2025 interim operating budget, a mover and a seconder for that as well, please. Patrick and anybody else? Glenn?
Be it resolved that council approve an interim operating budget of $9,333,415 for 2025.
Any questions from council with regards to this item? I see none. So if I can get a show of hands, those in support of 12.1, the interim operating budget. It is unanimous and it is carried. 12.2 is the financial, am I going too fast at all? 12.2 is the financial statement. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that as well? Patrick, Andy, you want to second that at all? No? Glenn?
Be it resolved that the financial statement for the month of October 2024 be approved as presented.
Any questions with regards to 12.2 financial statements? I see none. Can I get a show of hands of those in support? That is unanimous and it is carried. I'm having trouble with my screen here. It goes down. Where was I again?
List of accounts, 12.3.
12.3. Okay, 12.3, list of accounts there. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that as well, please? Patrick and Glenn?
Whereas disbursements have been reviewed for the period of November 14th to December 10th, be it resolved that all accounts listed on the attached printout from check 161561 to 161752 totaling 13,028,781.37 be approved for payment, as well as the following EFT entries. Western Financial 15,121.12, Amelia 315.45, John Deere 26,146.86, RBC Visa 14,575.41, Manitoba Hydro 25,845.40, Bell 8350.05, Volvo 20,898.98, and be it further resolved that November payroll in the amount of 327,754.53 be approved.
Mark, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just regarding check number 161751 WSP Canada for 17,483.67. If we could have some details on what that was for.
Sorry, can you repeat the check number? The only project I'm aware WSP is working on is our well monitoring program at the transfer station.
That's it, Mark? See no other questions then. We can get a show of hands. Those in support. I'm having trouble with my screen here. 13. What number were we at? 12.3?
Yeah.
List of accounts. Yes.
12.3, yeah.
Those in support, can I get a show of hands? That is unanimous and is carried. 12.4, please. Recreation maintenance reserve account transfers. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Patrick and Melinda.
Be it resolved, the Council of the RM of Springfield approve 11,321.68 from the Cook Street Community Club Maintenance Reserve Account, 43,382.04 from the Hazelwood Sports Complex Maintenance Reserve Account, 3560.55 from the Enola Community Club Maintenance Reserve Account, and 12,626 from the Oakbank and District Community Club Maintenance Reserve Account.
Any questions from council? 12.4. I see none. Can I get a show of hands of those in support as the reading is read and is passed? 12.5 is Oakwood Station Agreement renewals there. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Glenn and Melinda.
Be resolved that Council of the RM of Springfield authorize administration to enter into agreements with the town of Beausejour and the RM of Brokenhead to allow their residents to use the services provided at the Oakwood Waste Transfer Station for the period of January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025.
With that read, can I get a show of hands of those in support as read? Those unanimous and is carried. 12.6, that's the Recycle West Oil Waste Collection Program Agreement there. Mover and a seconder, please. Mark and Glenn.
Be it resolved that Council of the RM of Springfield authorize administration to extend the existing agreement with Recycle West Inc. for the collection of Eco Center recoveries, waste oils, filters, and fluids at the Hillside and Oakwood Waste Transfer Stations for the period of January to December 31st, 2025.
Questions from council? I see none. Can I get a show of hands of those in support as the resolution is read? That is unanimous and is carried. 12.7 there. RM Reynolds Fire Service Agreement Renewal. A mover and a seconder, please. Melinda and Patrick.
Be it resolved that Council of the RM of Springfield approve a 3-year fire services agreement with the RM of Reynolds, and be it further resolved that the CAO be authorized to negotiate on behalf of the municipality.
Thank you. I had a question there that may lead into something else there, but has the water supply in St. Rita been addressed there? I know that there was talk about having a force main or a main in the community there. Has that been addressed?
I don't believe anything's been added. Since we've had this agreement in place, we have requested that they provide their sources of water to us as part of this agreement. And I know that our fire chief, along with the Reynolds fire chief, are working towards other alternatives.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't see it in the agreement, although I don't know if it would be in there in any case there, but I just wanted to bring it up there. I don't need the chief there to address that. I just want to make it known that he knows his job. So give me a moment there, please. No, I got no further questions there. I have a comment more so anything there that the chief, if he's called out, we have it down as $82 per hour for his attendance. I know there he doesn't have to attend every one of them there. He's got good staff underneath him there, the men and women that can do that there. But I find that that's kind of a very that seems quite low to me for our chief to be called out in the middle of the night should he choose to go there. So more of a comment than anything else. Those maybe in our next agreement we should look at maybe increasing that. I find it is $82 an hour is a lot of money. I agree, but it's a in this day and age, the $82 I think compared to other duties and responsibilities, and he has a lot on his plate there. It seems rather low. More comment than anything else. That's it I have with regards to that. Any other questions or comments from council at all? And if did we already read the resolution? Okay, can I get a show of hands of those in support of the RM of Reynolds Fire Service Agreement renewal? That is unanimous and is carried. Then we go to 12.8, the Royal Canadian Legion. Can't hear me? Oh, okay. How's that? All right. So the Royal Canadian Legion Recognition Book, 12.8. A mover and a seconder for that as well, please. Melinda and Mark.
Be it resolved that council authorize a 1/10 page ad business card size in the Royal Canadian Legion Manitoba Northwest Ontario Command Military Service Recognition Book for a cost of $214.29 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you. Any questions from council at all? I see none. Can I get a show of hands those in support of the resolution as read at 12.8? Unanimous and is carried. Then we'll get to 12.9. That's Eastman Regional Municipal Committee request for support resolution there. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that as well, please? Melinda and Patrick.
Therefore, be it resolved that the RM of Springfield Council supports the development of small modular reactors at the White Shell Laboratories site in the local government district of Pinawa. And further be it resolved that the RM of Springfield Council supports the proposed StarCore nuclear proposal to build their demonstration small modular reactor at the White Shell Laboratories site and the local government district of Pinawa's proposal to become the demonstration remote community.
Thank you. Any questions from council at all? Mark or Andy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to find out, can we have this group come to our council and explain to us and so to residents before we agree to anything?
I was going to address that in my narrative here. Yes, I'd like them to just do a talk with regards to that, but just for clarity purposes there, we're not supporting building a nuclear reactor here in the RM of Springfield. This is a what they refer to as a small modular reactor, and it's a clean power source that they're using it there for other like a selection process initiatives for having a clean green power sources there. And the Pinawa facility, as everybody knows, it was a reactor site. Never had any issues there. I've had many tours there. I've had many scenario trainings there. It's an exceptionally well, it is a nuclear facility. So this is what the Eastman Regional Municipal Committee is just requesting our support in that they're pursuing that, and it's just saying that we support that their initiative and going forward. This has anything to do with the with Springfield per se. This is I think it's 10 years for a large or any nuclear Canadian nuclear power. Forget the acronym there. So this is an extreme. The process there. It's just a discussion there with people there, the scientists there from Pinawa. So they're just asking for our support there as they go forward in this. This isn't saying this is going to happen. This is just part of the process there, that they can show that the community of Eastman there, we agree with this Starcore nuclear proposal there, and hopefully they get it. They have to go through extreme rigorous selection process. So this isn't. This is just a support letter, essentially showing that we are unified in exploring this as a green initiative, and this is at best conception stage. But having them.
I understand that, but you said we're not going to be affected. If something goes wrong, we're very close. So people should be advised, our residents,
Yeah, well, of course, I agree.
Yeah.
But the nuclear power station has been there since the 50s there. So I can't speak on behalf of Pinawa there. I just know that this isn't a fly-by-night proposal there, but having him in here, I'd like people to understand how the small nuclear reactor system works there. I find it extremely intriguing. You're talking to a guy that went to university there, but I never science was not my forte by any means there. So I'm very. What was that? Did you say something, Daryl? No? Okay. So I think it's a very having them come in here and doing a presentation. Yeah, I think that would be very informative. Were you saying something, Mark? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so I would suggest the same thing. One resident had provided an email to me, and he was quite concerned about this, but a presentation would be very helpful to us making a decision. But I do know, in an international front, Canadian Nuclear Laboratories is renowned for being paramount and premier in their responsibility for nuclear waste disposal and so forth. But before I would vote on this, I would probably abstain, or I will abstain, because I want more information on it.
Okay. Any other questions at all? Then if I can, we've already read the resolution there, so if I can get a show of hands, those in support of the Eastman Regional Municipal Committee requests letter for support on the resolution there. Those in support? Melinda, Glenn, and Patrick. Are those opposed? Or abstaining? Can I ask why? Is that something I can ask?
They're just wanting to abstain until.
Okay. I just thought we had to have an explanation for abstain. That's all. Nothing more. Okay, and then we can go to 12.10. There, that's ward appropriations. There, can I get a mover and a seconder for that as well, please? Mark and Melinda.
Be it resolved that the following 2024 board appropriations be approved. Cooks Creek Community Club, $1,500 from Ward 3. Springfield Food Bank, $315 from Ward 1. Kinsman Hampers, $315 from the mayor, and $300 from Ward 1. And then I believe Ward 3 has some additional monies to spend. $865. $865. Okay, so $865 to Springfield Food Bank from Ward 3.
Okay, if everybody's good with that, can I just go to show of hands, those in support, award appropriations? That is unanimous and it is carried. 12.11, that's the January council meeting schedule. Mover and seconder, please. Patrick and Melinda. I don't know if you put your hand up there, Melinda, or not. That was quick.
Be it resolved that the council meeting scheduled for January 7th, 2025 be cancelled.
Thank you. Did I say a show of hands for that already? Can I get a show of hands, those in support? That is carried. We'll go to item 13. That's a close meeting to discuss personnel and legal issues there. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Melinda and Patrick.
Be it resolved this meeting recessed in camera to discuss personnel and legal issues, and be it further resolved that all matters shall remain confidential until a report is made public.
Thank you. At this point here, we have to clear council chambers. Oh, can I get a move or show of hands, those in support? That is unanimous and is carried.
Recording stopped.